Well, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. What am I gonna turn down here? I need to turn down all the things that I can hear right now. That one and that one. And I think we're gonna get into no, not I think. We are gonna get into I want to go to full screen.
Hello, Diablo community. Welcome to another Diablo 4 Campfire chat. We have a lot to talk about today. I say that all the time.
A little bit loud.
But I will say that this time we
Who's ready for?
Yeah, we will let the community decide.
Here we go.
I promise you this.
Who's
this is,
ready
this
for
is a lot though. But
what's new
my
with
name is
Diablo
Adam
4?
Fletcher.
I for surely am.
My name is Adam Fletcher. I'm the community lead for the Diablo
I for
franchise.
surely am.
Of
Well, we
course,
got
I'm
Joe, we
joined
got
by
Joe, we
a
got
wonderful
Charles,
panel here, plus
we got
one
Adam.
other who is off camera and will be jumping in. We have Charles Dunn, who's a game designer
I
on
don't know
Diablo
why this
4.
is always
Mr.
so,
Joe
like,
Shelley,
for
who
me,
is
it's
the game
so-
director of Diablo 4, and Mr. Joe Pipora, who's the associate game director of Diablo
Yeah, it's
4.
the best you
And
can get,
we
man.
will be
Like,
joined
what
by
the hell?
Adam Jackson, who's the lead
Why
class
does it look so
designer
grainy?
of Diablo 4. Before we get
Their
to
recording
the
quality is not very
class-specific,
good. Their streaming quality is better than
information
the
that we're gonna
recording
share
quality.
today. But I know Joe wanted to jump in, talk a little
So
bit
before we get started
about,
with this, though,
some of the things we're going to be talking
can I
about
just-
today,
I
and
can't
then
pause.
we will go
Can't
through
pause.
a plethora.
With my shift. That's lame. So before we get started with this, I guess where am I with Diablo 4? To be honest, I love the fucking game. It's fucking great. I spent so many hours in Season of the Construct that it should be, I don't know, I should be punished somehow. It's disgusting. I thoroughly enjoyed playing Barbarian build. I thoroughly enjoyed playing Flaming Meatball Sorceress build. And I got every single cent worth that I paid for out of this season. Absolutely. Now, what would I like? I don't know. The leveling arc is fun as hell. Don't change that. Keep it right where it is because getting from 1 to 100 is fun. Fleshing out your build, getting the aspects that you want, all that's fun. There's plenty of stuff to do from 1 to 100. Now, the last two like end game pieces that were added, the abattoir and the gauntlet now, I don't know, they're not really for me. They're just not. Why? Why are they not for me? Mainly because they force you to switch your build to whatever is going to be good enough to compete. So there's a meta. And I guess that's not what I'm looking for out of Diablo 4. I'm not looking to have to play a meta. You know? I want to be able to be successful with whichever build it is that I chose to play for that season. And then number 2, to be actually competitive, you have to have uber uniques for most builds, most classes. And the grind to find those things, like I still have only found one. I've played, it has to be close to 200 hours at least, which is not like in the grand scheme of things the most that you could play. I wish I could have 500 hours in Diablo right now. I don't know. Where can you go anywhere to even find out how much time you spent in a game on Battle.net? I don't think you can. So what am I looking for out of this next season? I don't even care. Just give me something fun that is a different experience than the last season. Like I really don't even fucking care. The items for me, I mean it's okay. Would it be a nice addition to be able to modify your items more? Absolutely. Because then maybe it makes playing with that same character after you've gotten to 100 more interesting and fun. You would be more compelled to continue playing with that character that you built that season. Like I could definitely like there's like what a month left, maybe a little bit less. I could build another character in this season and probably enjoy it, but there are other games that I want to play. And I guess for me that's perfect. But whatever. Let's see what they have to say.
Changes coming to Diablo 4.
What kind of changes are we going to get?
Details about the first ever PTR, public test realm, for
PTR.
D4.
Do I want to spend time in PTR?
Public test realm
like as a content creator, if I really wanted to take it serious, then yes, I would spend all my time in the PTR and make guides for it.
Provide feedback to
because
us.
That's content I can
we'll
make.
Go through all the details on that as well. But
I don't have that luxury right now.
Kick it off.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, so
I
want to frame this update. This is
I wish I did.
Season 4 update. We're going to talk a lot about systems here. And I wanted to do a little bit of framing. When we think about Diablo, right? Diablo is an ARPG. Everybody knows what an ARPG is, right?
Everybody does, Joe.
It's an action role-playing game. But it's such a broad category, right? You have lots of games that are ARPGs. Like a game like Hollow Knight, for example, is an ARPG, but it's also a Metroidvania, right? Or a game like Hades, which is an ARPG. It's also a roguelike. Or something like Elden Ring, which is an ARPG. But it's also a Souls-like, right? So when you think about what is Diablo, and what is Diablo for?
Diablo is Diablo.
You could call it a Diablo-like, sure. But
Yeah.
Another way to describe it would be as a systems ARPG, right? An SARPG. And so what distinguishes this kind of game from those other games that are in the same space?
What is a
that are all
systems ARPG?
Right? And it's really about when you're making decisions and what the most important decisions you're making are. The most important decisions in a game like this are the decisions you're making before combat, between combat. Decisions you make in combat are important too, but those are the ones that are the most important. Action combat, RPG elements, and systems are all foundational elements of any ARPG. But in a systems ARPG, the systems in particular, including the end game, itemization, things like crafting, those are what comprise the soul of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the lifeblood of a game like Diablo 4, and they don't just have to be deep, but also lush, prolific, exciting.
Glorious, Joe, glorious. They need to be glorious.
As many of you know, we've been designing this update for a while. We're putting it on the PTR because it's important, and it's important to get it right. Like Adam
See, that's a reason to play the PTR then, to give them
everything
feedback.
that you'll hear about today is from that S part of the SARPG, the soul of it.
The soul.
Joe, Adam, and Charles are going to take you through the changes, all the changes in detail. And there are a lot. So sit back, grab a drink, get your React faces
Who's
ready.
got their popcorn? I just had a
let's do
fucking
it.
delicious dinner.
Awesome. Well,
And I'm ready
appreciate
for
it,
this.
Joe. So I know what we want to do first, we kind of have an agenda of items, but one thing we do want to talk about really quickly is about PTR. We do want to get some housekeeping notes and what players can expect from PTR, along with the dates for PTR, so when they can actually jump in. So Season 4 PTR is actually going to start on April 2nd, and it's actually going to run for a week through April 9th. So players will be able to jump into PTR and try everything out that we're about to tell you all about.
That's not a lot of. Well, I guess it gives them a week to turn in any
like, hey,
feedback around.
That seems pretty close to the end of Season 3.
Yeah.
Is that enough time for you guys to actually react to the feedback that we're going to be getting from
very
PTR?
tight.
And I will note here that we do plan on actually extending Season 3 for this. So Season 3 is actually going to have a new end date. We're pushing it back a few weeks
God.
To ensure that we get all
That's
the
not
feedback
great
from this
news.
PTR,
So
and we
anybody that's
apply it
playing will be
to
playing in the
Season 4 to
PTR
make
for a
sure
week.
that all
And
these
then
new
they're not
system
gonna
changes
play
that we're
until
doing
May.
are right
What the
and
fuck,
work
guys?
for the community
Come on.
based off of
All right,
everyone's
so what are we
feedback.
gonna play then?
Season
We're gonna
3
play
is now going to end on May 14th. And of
Dragon's
course, with that,
Dogma,
Season
which comes
4
out on
also
Friday. We're gonna play that all
starts on May
weekend, and
14th.
probably if it's
So there are some,
fun,
a
we'll
few
play that
different,
until
changes
we
coming
finish
for the schedule.
whatever
so
you
you'll
can
see
finish.
That in-game message,
And
which
then
actually
that's
notes,
plenty
like,
of
when the
time to
season
get
is
back
actually
to
ending, change,
Spider-Man and
today,
finish Spider-Man.
probably,
And
with this new
That's
date
fine.
for players, so that
So
again,
we won't be
can
playing
make sure
Diablo
that we
again until
apply
April
all the
1st
feedback
or
from
2nd,
PTR,
whatever it
which
was.
starts on
2nd.
April 2nd through April 9th. One other note is that, again, PTR itself is specifically for PC Battle.net only.
Yeah.
So this just allows us to be a little bit more agile on our team. Does this mean that PTR is only going to be PC Battle.net only in the future? No, it doesn't. We are going to try to explore other ways of being able to bring PTR when we do have a PTR to players in the future.
I don't know, man. Don't
now,
spend too much money on that.
PC Battle.net only. So, and we'll have
Don't
instructions.
spend too much time and money. Spend more time and money on more content,
the
please.
public test realm client on Diablo 4 through the PC
Like, it's a good
Battle.net
idea.
client,
PTR is a good
next week
idea to
when we
get
actually have a
feedback
full
from all the
blog that
people
will
that
explain kind of all the details
are
of how to do that
diehard,
well before
hardcore,
the start
like
of
have
PTR
all the time in the
itself.
world. You need to get feedback.
But then
from them.
there's other notes with PTR as well, because there's probably going to be a lot of questions of like, well, am I starting with like a level 1 character? Am I taking my existing characters? Since PTR itself is a fresh new server,
brand new playthrough,
you will actually be
build
starting fresh on PTR, but we do have boosting options available because we need players to actually jump in and test out some of these features that we're obviously in these system changes that we're doing specifically for PTR. So I think we actually have a slide, I believe. Speaking of which, I know I actually
you can boost to 100 automatically.
Sorry, I've seen a lot of feedback about, hey, you guys have a lot of slides. Sometimes the slides have a lot of information specifically in them that we need to actually showcase because there might be a lot of details in there. I will say we will have slides today because there's a lot to share.
Slides are great.
But we also have a live build. So we will actually be going to the live build to showcase some of the changes just because we know that a lot of players want to see more gameplay or see them in game. So we do have that here today. Okay.
Good.
Now we
give
can
us
go
both.
So slide.
So instantly do
so
100.
There will be PTR boosting features
100 million gold and 1,000
for
oils.
players that are jumping into PTR. You will be able to boost a character immediately up to 100. When you do that, you will receive 100 million gold and 1,000 obols. You can do this multiple times. You can even trade amongst gold across your characters, of course. And then we will also mark the campaign completed for your character, as well as offering you a mount, all your skill points, and more. Skill points again. Paragon, Fog of War will be completely cleared.
Good. Everything unlocked.
It's actually going to match the renown progress on your original Diablo 4 account. So if you've already done all your renown rewards and everything, you'll end up getting that completely
all
covered
Paragon
off on your
glyphs
character
unlocked.
for PTR. And of course, all the class system mechanics, things
Legendary
like
drop
enchantment
rates
for
doubled.
sorcerer, or like Book of the Dead stuff will be
it actually would probably be fun.
For you for
I think we play
sorcerers
sorceress or what?
End up creating for PTR or any other
As
characters
well.
that you create, and then all your Paragon glyphs will be unlocked,
sorcerers do we build?
and legendary drop rates will be doubled. And I believe glyphs are also
glyphs are maxed.
Yeah, glyphs are also maxed up.
Oh, they're maxed
so you
too.
will have that capability there. There are like a few things that will be not present in PTR, but that is.
But like, what is the
example,
extent of the end game
the
that's being added to it? Then I guess gotta
Codex
find
of
out.
Power, but we'll explain why here in a minute. There's some more details related to Codex of Power for players to kind of understand why that's not present there. So we will be accepting, of course, feedback for the PTR across all our different social channels.
I would hope so. Otherwise, what's the point?
Community channels. And we will be turning on a specific PTR forum on Diablo4.com. That is not on right now, so no one can actually see it. But once that does come online, we will also be checking feedback there. So please provide feedback based off of everything that you are hearing today and playing through during PTR between those dates that we actually mentioned, because the team is going to be looking at it.
So that's a reason to do it. Let's do it.
Can make any changes before the start of season 4.
We'll play Diablo from April 2nd to April 9th.
With that,
Fine.
Now that we've gotten through the PTR housekeeping notes, Mr. Joe Pipe.
Let's dive in. Okay,
let's dive in.
There is quite a bit to cover today, so we're going to try to move briskly through parts where we can. So
How much time
there's
we got
3
here?
major things we're going to be discussing today. The first, Charles,
Like an hour and
are bringing us
45
through
minutes
a number of itemization and crafting changes you're going to see when Season 4 goes live. I want to also be very clear that the changes we're talking about today are all going to be on the Eternal Realm and on the Seasonal Realm. not actually talking about the season specifically today. We're really talking about this massive item update and these other updates been happening kind of in parallel to season development.
What does
during
that
this
mean
time.
for all of the gear that you
So
have in
that's for the
Eternal?
first,
Who the
first
fuck
part.
plays Eternal
The next, I'll be
anyways? Like,
guiding
what?
us through some of the new in-game content that we're
Really?
going to be implementing and integrating into the Season 4 release. And then Adam Jackson is going to be coming on to talk about a lot of the live class updates making across the various mechanics of the game. So there's a lot to look forward to. Let's go ahead and just, I guess, dive right in. Charles, if you don't mind taking us away.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start talking about itemization. So
Let's talk
when we
about
think
it.
about the itemization updates, I think it's really helpful to frame this conversation around some of the goals that we have for the itemization update. So our number one main goal here is to focus on quality of items over quantity of items.
Great.
So one of the persistent points of feedback that we've gotten since we've launched Diablo 4 last year was that a lot of the items that you find in dungeons and throughout
trash.
the game
Our dog shit.
you end up just sifting through a lot of items, searching through your inventory, and reading a lot of lines of text. And ultimately, a lot of the items just end up being junk for you.
Junk,
And that
trash,
is never really,
dog shit.
It never really felt great. And so with this update, that's been our driving, our number one goal is to focus on making sure that when we do give you items, they're high quality items. They're much more likely to be useful
That
for
means
your
it's
build,
not going to be
rather than just
pinatas
flooding you
anymore
with
for anything.
endless streams of often junk items. The second goal we have here is that the best items in the game, the really pinnacle ones that you get at the end game, they have a journey associated with them. As I said before, you were kind of sifting through your inventory and looking for these items, but once you found that perfect item, you were pretty much done. It was basically a complete item, and you're already done with the item. You've completed it. We think that the game is a lot more engaging when you have a bit of a journey, an investment, whether it be in time, crafting materials, and you really get to customize and make items your own and make it feel like this is for me and my build and my character.
Yeah, and feel
Yes.
that power progression too. It's so critical to the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And the third goal that we have here is to focus on moments of surprise and delight in the itemization chase. This leads to moments of, hey, I found the item. You get really excited about it. And you just, you have these infrequent moments.
Very
It's not going to be
fleeting,
all the time, but when you do find it, you're going to know it. You're going to feel it. You're going to be really excited about what just dropped. So with that, we have a number of topics within the itemization update. So the overview here is that we've got updates to existing systems, such as base items updates. We've
greater
got a few additional
affixes.
updates that are kind of adjacent to the itemization system. We've got some updates to Codex of Power, which we sort of alluded to earlier, and I think those are going to be some really big wins. We also have some new systems being introduced here. We've got tempering, which is going to be a new customization system. Greater affixes, which help to provide some chase in the end game. These are going to be some of those powerful items, ones that have greater affixes. And then once you do reach that end game with great gear, you're going to be able to masterwork it to really unlock its full potential and upgrade it to the best possible version that it can be. So let's hop into some of the base item updates. So this is where we're going to focus on making a smaller pool of affixes that are more relevant and more potent for your specific build. So as I kind of mentioned earlier in the goals section, a lot of the affixes and stats that appeared on items,
Thank you.
Often
only
very
sacred
conditional,
items
right?
in
You
World
had,
Tier
like,
3 and
damage
only
while berserking
ancestral
or
items in
damage
World Tier
to
4.
close
Thank
enemies,
you.
or things that were hyper specific and ultimately just were kind of meaningless in a lot of ways. They blended together. We're really focused
Wonder if they're going
in
to
this rework,
adjust
we're
the
focusing on
monster
reducing
levels
that
too
pool
because of
of
this though.
affixes to be
Like if everything is stronger,
more general. They're more applicable to a lot of
it's
builds.
just
They're
going
not
to
going to
be
be this
mowing through things
hyper-specific,
faster.
conditional, and they're going to be more potent. So some examples here.
The girls are calling. Brodeen. Bro, I missed out on fucking Taco Bell. That's bullshit.
We've got ranks
Lame.
of a single core skill. Sometimes on gear you would
Lame
find
city.
items that have ranks of upheaval, ranks of whirlwind,
Yeah,
and
make
ranks
them
of double
bigger.
swing, all on the same item. And almost no build wants all 3 of those things at once. So
Never.
we've made it so that, hey, only one of these can appear. That makes just the subset of items
I mean,
that you
it's
find
not. There
much more
are
likely to
some
be relevant for you.
combinations like 2
And in
mastery
terms of like
skills
being
that
more
you're using.
potent, we're looking at
It should
things
be
like
no more
in
than
World Tier
2.
3, only sacred items are
unfortunate.
going to appear. And then once you get into World Tier 4, only ancestral, only those most powerful versions of items will appear. This means you're just getting less junk, right?
Those are both
Sometimes
good.
you'd get sacred items in World Tier 4, and that never felt great because, hey, I'm in World Tier 4, I should be getting the best items now.
Yes, I should.
We also did a pass on the affix values to make sure they're a bit punchier, that you could feel it when you really equip an item. This often was just some numerical tuning. In the past, you might get an item that said plus 2% critical strike chance, and
Yeah, it's
honestly,
horrible.
it was hard to ever notice
It's worthless.
that. Or like plus 5% damage or something like that. And those really small values were just hard to ever notice when you're swapping it, and it never felt like you got
Yeah,
to
you
upgrade
can't use
your
it.
gear.
It's always a
So
loss
let's take
because
a look
whatever you had
at,
before is better.
at some examples here. Oh, right. So the other update is that we are reducing the total number of affixes on gear that initially drops. So legendary items used to drop with 4 affixes, 4 lines of stats. That's going down to 3. And then rare items, the yellow items, used to have up to 4, and now they'll just go down to 2. And yeah, so the goal here, once again, is to really focus on the quality of the
3, huh? That
affixes that appear
sucks.
on the gear, rather than just the
That's
pure
a lot
quantity.
more intelligence,
And this
but
also gives us
still only
room
3.
to build on it in some of the later crafting and tempering systems. You are going to get more
So you can
affixes, but
unlock
the
more than-
base item is going to start with a little bit less, just so we have room to
Okay.
grow.
One of the changes that we're making in response
So then you
to
can
this
essentially
also,
pick
we know
one that you
right
want.
now, like rare items are the items that players are using to trade in situations where you find like a really, really powerful template item. So you get a max roll helmet with CDR and such, right? Like these are still really important for players. So as part of this change, we are going to open up trading to allow legendary items and unique items to also be tradable in the starting in Season 4.
Really?
This is a big change for us. Now, one distinction here
Why?
to let people keep this in mind is that
The fuck's gonna trade this
crafting
shit?
on either of these items, whether you're going to be tempering or masterworking or anything else later on down the road, these things like enchanting does today, these make these items account bound. So you can't trade them once you get them and after you've done some crafting on them. So we think this does a great job of making sure that the trade economy is still interesting, and that when you're looking for a specific item or an item is dropped for you that a friend can use, it's going to be a lot easier for you to go ahead and hand those things around now.
I want to trade,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. And that's
I just want to fucking play and find the shit I want. Fuck trading.
Adam Jackson. Adam Jackson's not
It's all
here.
right.
Yeah.
Trading is a big deal. Very important. I'm okay taking that.
Literally appeared for trading. Yeah.
appeared for trading.
Yeah.
Trading fairy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways.
yeah, absolutely. That's a very important note, and I know a lot of people might have saw this and thought, "Oh, rare items are now, how can I trade?" But now you can still be trading these legendary items that you find if they're useful for you, or you think they might be useful for a friend.
Oh, and also,
So
I should
anytime you
say
find a
also,
legendary that
uber
has
unique
3
items
good
are
stats, you're
not
gonna use
going
it.
to be tradable.
Right,
in Season
correct.
4.
Everything that isn't an Uber.
Yeah, everything is not an uber unique.
And
It's
uber
not-
unique, yeah. Those are the most powerful items, and if you want those, you're gonna have to go and find them yourself.
That's right.
Those are the most powerful items in the game there.
I'm fine with that.
All right, so let's take a look at a closer example here. So we've got, kind of on the left, a before. This is a Boned Wand of Serration. This was before our update. This is what you could currently get on live. And you can see how it's got, plus intelligence,
But the
vulnerable
weapon
damage, damage
affix
to
is the
shadow
same.
damage over time affected enemies. That is a mouthful. Same
Damage
with the
is the
lucky hit
same.
chance to execute injured non-elites. These are the really hyper-specific affixes that we're talking about
That are stupid.
really bloat items. It takes a while to parse this. Like, you just can't at a glance tell, hey, is this even good for me?
Yeah, reading through a number of conditional additive damage modifiers is like when you're like item to item. It's just very. It is taxing.
Makes you want to fucking
Especially when you really
cry.
fill up your inventory with 30 plus of these items,
Yeah,
trying to sort through them all at once when you just really want to get back into the action, right? You want to get back
So
into
the vulnerable
fighting
damage
demons.
is essentially doubled.
So in
on a
the
wand. What,
after
like,
this itemization
is it
update in the after
80%
section
on a
here, we have got
stat
a similar
then?
item.
Jeez.
It has intelligence. It has plus
You
damage.
can get
that just applies to
50%
all of your
damage on a
It's
stat?
not hyper specific. And we still do get you give you a larger bonus if you're hitting vulnerable enemies with this. And
Can
it's
you get an item
Damage
now
wasn't
that
even
gives you,
possible
like,
on a wand
int,
before.
Dex and strength on it?
No, in fact, because this wand just has intelligence on it, it is just the main stat for your class.
Got it.
So if you are a sorcerer,
Good.
you're only going to find intelligence on items. If you're a bard, you're only going to find strength, and so on.
I can still find all stat, right?
Yes.
all stat
Yeah, you
stuff
still
like
have all stat, but no more are you going to find, oh, I got, intellect on my barbarian. That's just basically a completely dead stat for you.
Got it.
Good.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other additional updates that are kind of adjacent to the main itemization updates. Legendary item drops from monsters that are level 95 or higher are always going to be at item power 925. That is the highest item power in the game. And once you're really facing the toughest monsters in the game, we want to make sure that you're constantly getting the best possible items. This really comes back to our idea of quality over quantity.
Good.
Once you're at this point of the game, you don't really care about anything that isn't 925.
Absolutely,
so
you
why
don't.
are we dropping that
It
for
just
you,
gets
right?
fucking
You're going to be
salvaged.
kind of graduating out of caring about item power because you just know that everything I'm getting is the maximum item power. Next, we've done a pass to update our gems. They are a little bit simpler. Some of the gems used to have, once again, those very conditional things like critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies was like one stat on one gem. So we've kind of simplified it. So now we just have bonus critical strike damage or bonus vulnerable damage.
Good.
We've also added some updates to have core stats on them. So some of the gems will have strength, some will have dex, and so on. And they'll have a little bit of a longer crafting tail. They're a bit more powerful at the top end, but they do require a bit more investment to really unlock that highest power level. And once you have all the gems that you want, excess gems will now sell for quite a bit more gold. So that way you're not really going to waste once you
Item
you have kind of
rerolling gold
found those
cost
best
is
gems.
capped. That's nice.
Additionally, we've done a pass on the salvage crafting and rewards have all been
Material
retuned for
removal and
this new world where we're
consolidations,
dropping
I mean-
less items than before. Once again, we're focusing on you have less time sorting through your inventory
Forgotten souls
and
from
more time getting
whispers.
back in the action, more time slaying enemies to find those items.
Yeah, there's much less cruft in this version of the feature, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not walking out of a nightmare dungeon with 25 items. You
No.
have to go and deal with it back at the
Right.
blacksmith.
But the ones that you do have are much more likely to be relevant and useful to you
Yeah.
when you do find them.
Okay.
Additionally, we've item rerolling, the enchanting system at the occultist. We know this has been, it has like a scaling gold cost currently, and that just keeps on ramping up. If you want to keep fishing for that perfect affix,
painful.
it could cost millions upon millions upon millions of gold. We put a cap on that. We don't think it's really
What's
healthy
the
to have
cap?
that actually scale infinitely. It'll still get a little high, but it's not going to go to infinity. We've
Capped at 3
taken
million.
a pass on the materials, the crafting materials, things like ore and herbs, and some of the other crafting materials in the game. And a lot of the ones we had some variety of like common herbs, so that were found in different zones, and there was some nice flavor there, but ultimately they didn't really provide much compelling gameplay. So we've consolidated all of like the common crafting materials into just a single type, just basically common herbs. And then there are still some rare ones to find to craft the most powerful elixirs and so on. But we've simplified that system so your collection is a little bit easier and more streamlined.
I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
we also removed things like there's like a lot of monster parts like pale tongue and things like that are also have been removed as part of this experience. It's gonna make it a lot easier to craft elixirs in this new world.
Absolutely.
You don't have
and-
to scroll through that tab so long to see
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
what material you want to
Yeah.
craft with. Yeah.
Especially when they ultimately just fed towards that same goal. And then the final update we've got is updates to the Forgotten Souls, right? So the late game crafting material that you use for a lot of the enchanting
about veiled
or
crystals,
or other
though?
crafting systems, we're making them a little bit more accessible. They'll come from Whispers of the Dead caches, and they can also rarely drop globally from any elite in the game. And this is a really cool moment.
I'm good with that.
You kind of have this jackpot moment. It's pretty rare when you kill elites, but there's a moment where you just get like this explosion of loot, and it spits out a ton of the Forgotten Souls or other loot or other crafting materials, and that's a really exciting moment when you encounter it in game. It's pretty rare, but you kind of hit the jackpot when that does happen.
And for
I mean,
Forgotten
so
Souls,
you're
that can
still
happen outside
then-
of Helltide, right?
Oh yeah, that can happen on literally any elite in the game.
Yep.
You're still going to be in
Also,
Helltide a
we're
lot then.
looking at updating our uniques. So unique items are, these really build-defining, flashy, unique items, right? They are very powerful.
Problem with that though is that
currently, they're
once
locked
you find a
behind just
unique
World
that you
Tier
really
3
want
and
for your
onward.
build, you're
They're
going to
really
be
late game
using it
items.
until you
And
find
we thought
another
that
one.
to really get you into the fun faster, to
Which
get your
is
build
not
online,
gonna be the World
we've
Tier
made it
4
so that
most
many
likely.
of our uniques in the game can now start dropping in World Tiers 1 and 2, so you can start getting them earlier on in the experience and really get your build going
But you can get
much
an
quicker.
Uber unique from level
And then once you
55
do get into
that
World Tier 3,
drops with a
then all of the uniques in the
995.
game have the
Like,
potential
that
to
takes
start
out
dropping, including
the whole
Uber
fucking.
uniques, which are typically those
That's
very late game
crazy.
chase items. There is a chance that monsters starting at level 55
That's crazy.
drop these Uber uniques. It's a pretty small chance. It's very rare, but it's one of those moments that you're going to find, if you're really lucky, you might
Yeah,
find
if you're really lucky.
Harlequin's Crest
Yeah, you're
at
gonna remember
level
that.
55.
You'll remember that playthrough for sure.
Oh, you definitely will, right? And of course, they'll drop. Oh,
I was to say, kind of going
Yeah.
back to our goals of the itemization update in general, is that like at any time something really exciting can happen, right? That's the main impetus for doing this. Is that even early on in the game, you can get the main thing that you're looking for. It's going to be very rare, not very common, but it's possible. And even some of our other updates coming that you're going to explain is kind of going along that vein, right?
absolutely, yeah. We want you to have the chance to really have that high roll moment, that really exciting moment when you find
It's
that
like
awesome
1
loot.
in 20 gazillion, gajillion,
So that covers
badillion.
the additional updates. We've got
million.
to talk about the Codex of Power. Right, so the Codex of Power is a system that has been in the game since launch, and we're making a big update here where now all legendary aspects in the game will start appearing in the Codex of Power.
That's good.
Every single one. Previously, it was just a small subset. And I believe we even have some in-game footage that we can talk and go through an
How about
example
carry
of
it
what
over
this looks
to-
like.
Yeah, we'll jump over to
Yeah.
it. We have behind the scenes, we actually have Ruben, aka Bloodshed, former content creator, now part of the Blizzard team here on Diablo. He's actually driving us through our build here, but he will be driving through all our little demos.
Former
that we have
content
today, so.
creator. Must
Awesome.
be nice.
Yeah, so you can see in our inventory right now, we have got Edgemaster's Siege Bow. And this has a little icon on it in the upper right in your inventory there. And that indicates that if you salvage this legendary, it will upgrade an aspect in the Codex of Power when you salvage it.
That's right. So
Nice.
you no longer need to go to
Upgrades
the
it.
occultist to extract aspects in
Correct.
any way, because aspect crystals are no longer a thing in this new version of the Codex of Power.
Yeah, aspect crystals are gone. It's just when you salvage the legendary, it will upgrade it. So we salvage it, we can see that Edgemaster's aspect has been upgraded in the Codex of Power. So we go to our Codex of Power and let's go take a look. So we've got Edgemaster's aspect here.
All right.
That skills deal up to 6% increased damage based on your available resource when cast. So that is the kind of legendary rank of the one that we just salvaged. Now this says 6% here. In game it was 12% because it was on a two-handed bow, and that doubles the range. But you can see it's not
You gotta
a
find
minimum roll.
legendaries
Right now
to
on,
upgrade your
on,
aspects.
live Diablo 4, it's always just a minimum roll, and so once you find something better, a better aspect crystal, the codex is kind of irrelevant. Now the codex will continue being relevant because every time you find a higher roll of it, it's going to upgrade your codex, and you can continually re-imprint this legendary power onto
nice.
any gear that you find going
I'm
forward.
down.
That's right. So if Ruben finds a 10% roll, on something else, then that is now going to, he can go ahead and salvage that item down. That 10% version is now going to replace the 6% version he has right now. And that's the new version that you have. So when we're talking about upgrading, what we really mean is like, as you find the better versions of these aspects, they replace the older ones. Now,
I'm good with
every
that. Because
time
like if you had to
decide want
just
imprint
keep
out of the Codex of
salvaging them
Power,
to
that's
go
gonna
up
be the version
one,
that you get from
that would
point
suck.
forward.
That would take
So
forever.
if you find a max roll the first time, are you just super lucky? You have it forever?
You are super lucky, and you would have that forever. Yes,
Cool.
you can continue to imprint it. However, the ranks of legendaries, you won't be able to find a max roll of these legendaries in World Tiers 1 and 2 when you're just starting out your journey. We have extended the range, so a lot of legendaries used to say, hypothetically, if a legendary rolled between 20% and 30%, now we've extended that range from 20 to 35%. But those like 30 to 35%, the highest range, the most powerful versions, those are only going to be accessible in World Tier 4 in the later games. So this does give you a bit more of progression. So you can find it early and you can upgrade it, but then you're going to find even better versions as you progress through the world tiers.
And if we actually, can we go back to the build really
Do they
quickly,
still
'cause,
come from dungeons though?
Ruben, if you can pull
Bring up
up
that
the Codex of
again.
Power really quickly.
Show the UI a little
just to
bit
show
here.
the UI.
Yeah.
Because one big thing is like I know we glazed over this really quickly, but there are filters, ways of searching through everything.
Okay,
which is
unlockable
really nice.
from a
And then,
dungeon.
of course, on the icons as well, I think people are probably seeing these numbers associated. I know
Yeah.
it's something that is changed obviously with this new Codex of Power, where it's showcasing like, hey, there's a gold version of Aspect of Quickening Fog right there, which is already showcasing, hey, you have it completely maxed at 16 out of 16. And of course, there's different ranks as you're kind of like leveling up throughout the Codex Power and finding different aspects of it.
Yeah, I really love that gold border to really indicate that, hey, you found the best version, you've kind of completed this. And some of them, you kind of cheat on it, right? Things that only have one rank. As soon as you unlock it, you get the best version.
Yeah, that's an example of one that you could max out in World Tier 1.
You probably could, right? But most of them have now, up to 16 ranks is kind of our standard, for the most part. And those highest ranks are just going to be in the later world tiers.
And for a lot of these aspects too, when we went to 16 ranks on these, we actually extended the value, the power of these, and potency of these aspects upwards, right? We didn't water it down. We actually extended it up.
Yeah, for the most part, these have increased in power at the highest level, just to make them really rewarding in World Tier 4 when you find them.
And I'm sure there's people asking specifically about, hey, is this a seasonal thing? Is this an eternal thing?
This is everywhere forever. This is the new world.
This is the new world.
That's right. All the updates we're
The
talking about
Metamorphosis
today,
stays
once
in-
again, are for the Eternal Realm and for the Seasonal Realm. These are not
Season 4, huh?
seasonal updates only.
Yeah. They're coming with
Anemia.
Season 4,
No,
but
Anemia
they
is part
are
of it already.
applying to the whole game. Forevermore.
And I do want to note, like, Codex of Power with seasonal characters,
Well,
of
for
course,
now,
will
till you
end up
change it again.
like every single time
It
there's
does
a new
reset.
season,
Yes.
it
Yeah,
does.
You
the
will
same
have
way that it does
It's
today.
not forevermore.
But eternal characters, will just have
You
it
can
forever.
actually fill it out
Eternally.
forever,
Yes.
Eternally, of course.
Until people start complaining
All right, so that
about
was
it,
a
and then
ton
it'll
on
change.
the systems that already exist in the game, right? The base item affixes, the other updates, and Codex of Power. But there's also new systems coming.
We're
Yeah,
not
I'm
done
down
with
with
that
those
That was,
conversation.
that was updates to
Halfway
existing
done.
things, but
Yeah,
we have
let's
got a lot of new stuff. So let's talk about tempering. Tempering is a new crafting system that will allow you to add really cool new affixes to your items.
Really
and
cool.
So I really just want to highlight
And new.
that this is not just taking those old really conditional nitty gritty aspects or affixes. This also includes a lot of really new exciting affixes as well that we'll showcase a bit later. Things like a chance to cast bonus projectiles, increased effect size of your skills, and other ways of talking directly to individual skills. A lot of this lives in tempering. And so this way you
Increased
can really
effect size,
customize
huh?
your character,
That's great for
specifically to your build and the
sorcerer.
skills that you're using and the way you want to play. So you might be asking, well, how do we temper? We've got tempering manuals. So these are manuals that are going to drop from most content in the game. This isn't something you need to go target farm. You're just going to find these as you're playing. And these manuals are going to be a list of possible affixes that are kind of themed to individual builds.
still
So if
random.
you're a bone necro, for instance, the manual for bone
That's
necro
fucked.
might
It's
have
still-
things specifically
it's
to
still
bone spear
fucking
and bone
random.
splinters and bone spear. When you do the tempering,
That's fucked.
which is done at the blacksmith, it will attach a random one of the affixes from that manual
I hope
onto
though
the
that
item
like they're
that you're
pretty
tempering.
specific, man.
And if you don't get the exact one that you want, or you don't get the roll that you want, you can re-roll these affixes up to the item's tempering durability. Now, this is a lot without an example,
many
so
is
I
that?
think we've got an example where we can just
like show
walk
people what it
through,
looks
right?
like.
So here's some screenshot examples of the actual recipes that appear. So on the
Mobility
left,
cooldown
we've got
reduction.
the Manual of Natural Motion. This is a generic recipe that really applies to any class. It's got a variety of movement speed options on it. So you've got, you might just attach movement speed to your gear. Maybe you get a higher value of movement speed, but only after you kill an elite. We have the option to reduce your evade cooldown or give you
Interesting.
mobility skill cooldown reduction.
there's
We've tagged a
4.
lot of skills in the game with mobility tag when things like teleport or charge.
Unless they're like if
And then
there's
on the
4
right, we've
here
got
and these are
one that is
legendary,
more specific
are
to
there also
necromancers,
rare ones that
because
only
this
have
is
3?
the bone necro
Because if
one that
that's
I
the
mentioned
case,
before.
then you're only
So we've
going to
got
want
a
to
chance for
find
bone splinter projectiles to
You're only
cast
gonna wanna
twice.
find rare
Chance
ones
for
because
bone
it
spear
condenses it.
projectiles to cast twice. Increase the size of your bone spirit explosion.
That's very cool.
You better be
or
able to
increase
salvage
the
these
duration
too,
of your
and then,
bone
like,
storm.
like
So
craft new ones
if you're a
out of
bone
the
necro,
salvage.
one of these is probably going to be pretty relevant to you and would be really a cool way of customizing your character and your skills.
Like these better not be super rare, and
So
they
here's
can
an
drop
example
things for
of
other
the
classes.
UI.
That would be
So on the
fucked.
left, we've got this Choker of Ancestral Charge, one of my favorite legendaries, currently on season 3. And so it's got the relatively simpler affixes. It's got just max life, damage, and critical strike chance. And we go to the blacksmith. We put it into the menu here, and we can see that there are kind of 6 categories with
it's
5 of
adding
them being
2.
highlighted. These categories are the categories of recipes. So each recipe corresponds to one of these
It
categories.
adds 2?
And
No way.
on amulets, you can put anything
Okay.
except the weapons category. So that's why offensive, defensive, utility, mobility, and resource are all highlighted here. And once we go through this, we can do this twice because most items can only be tempered once. You can get just one affix on them. But ancestral items, these really late game World Tier 4 items, can be tempered twice from 2 separate categories. So you can't put, say, 2 defensive ones on there. You're going to diversify. And
Okay.
in this case, we've got charge cooldown reduction added on the right. And we've also got some bonus damage while berserking. So we've got an offensive one here. And then we've got
Charge
a
cooldown
utility
reduction.
one that gives us the
Oh
cooldown
my
reduction.
God. Charge is just
Do we
ridiculous.
have a live example of this, of going through this
And
actual
super
flow,
fun.
so we can kind of show you what this ends up looking like?
Yep. Once again, yep. That's
Look,
right there.
Look.
Points.
Lot
Points
making
at the
win.
blacksmith.
Yes. So in here we've got our bow of branching volleys. We can put in here because this is a weapon. We can attach ones from the offensive category, and so here's all the examples. We've got 5 different recipes that we've unlocked here, depending on how we want to build our character. So if
But
we
you
want to
can
do,
do-
say, marksman skills
Oh, okay.
to put on there, we can do marksman finesse, and this will give us either bonus marksman damage. Why don't we just temper it and see what it looks like? So we get this flashy animation that comes in, and we get to see, hey, we added 29%
You
marksman
called
damage.
Yep.
Right?
Actually worked out quite nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
Not scripted, by the way.
definitely not scripted. So yeah,
Actually, it wasn't. But
It actually was.
you were actually lucky. But
You're
Right.
in the grips of RNG.
4 more. You can
One
temper
thing I
it 4
want to
more
call out
times.
also while we're looking at this is that so we are
Maxwell too.
in the season 4 update, or this PTR update that we're talking about right now. This is our first PTR update. There's a lot of changes we have going in, and there's some things that are going to be are kind of in the middle of being polished now, or kind of getting wrapped up for some things in dev. There's going to be some things
Wait,
that
why
players
did it
will
say
see on
it
the
said
PTR, they're gonna
29
feel like,
when
oh,
it
this is
added
like
34?
not quite like what I expect, or there's like they might find bugs and things.
Yep.
That's kind of the nature of the PTR experience.
Yeah.
We want you to report those, like Adam called out a little bit earlier, and give us your feedback on the experience.
Yeah,
But-
that's actually a really good reminder, because I think a lot of people haven't experienced PTR, especially if you're like kind of new to Diablo and you do jump in. PTRs will have bugs. It is
Yeah.
an early
And
look at the build.
polish.
Yeah, still coming
So
in.
there will be bugs, polished things that won't be incorporated. So yes, provide feedback on all those things so that we can actually hear those and make changes for those.
But if we throw back to Ruben real quick, the thing I wanted to point out was like when the the tempering process went through, it said you got 28% for the that marksman damage, but the item itself got a slightly different number. There's just a bug that we've identified that we're in the middle of fixing right now.
right. That's
So-
just a
I was
display
gonna
bug.
say,
but
that's
this is
bugged.
one of the things that we're working on, we're aware of, and going to polish up because
Yeah.
that's the nature of game development.
Just for the
right?
eagle-eyed among the viewers.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a thing.
All right, so a few other things to call out here. Let's actually close this menu and then take a look at when it's in there. We can talk about tempering durability a little bit. So you can see when this is in here, we've got tempered affixes, 1 out of 2, because this is an ancestral item. You can temper it twice from 2 different categories. So you're going to be able to put 1 weapon and 1 offensive on there. And then there's this tempering durability remaining. So this is how many times you can re-roll the tempered affixes. The first ones that you attach should not be consuming tempering durability. I think this one might have one of those bugs where it did consume it, but ultimately this is going to be the number of times you can re-roll.
Yep.
You're-
We're actually going to update the string. I think it's going to literally be called tempering rerolls.
Re-roll.
Yeah,
Okay.
to make it really, really clear. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the kind of things that we're actually working on, and we love your feedback on to make sure that we can get this right and really communicate the way the system works. So we've attached an offensive affix onto this. Let's take a look at some of the weapon ones that we can attach on. So here we've got ones that not great. Well,
Live build.
Yeah,
live
live
build
build.
indeed.
Live build.
Well, so we can talk through what would have
gosh.
happened there.
Yeah.
They're going to fucking
Right, so
crash our
when you
computers with this
attach
PTR.
the weapon category, those are often the
Watch.
ones that are the more
Who wants to
I
bet?
would say more interesting, right? The bonus
It's going to fucking
projectiles,
crash
the bonus
computers.
effect size.
Ooh,
Yeah, that
do
was
I do it
the
then?
weapon category that had a chance to create different, like multiple bone splinters or
Yes.
slice rather.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's in the weapon category. So there we would attach one of those. Maybe we'd get a chance for rapid fire projectiles to fire an extra time. And then when we do that, maybe, we actually want to play a penetrating shot build, right? Or maybe rapid fire is not that great. We could consume one of the tempering durabilities to re-roll that and try to get that bonus rapid fire projectile ones that we want.
At least people now believe it's live.
Do people still think we weren't doing it live?
Looking at it. But yeah, I know we're getting the build back up here and everything. But
there's a lot of really cool new affixes in general inside the tempering system. Like I know that I've been playing a lot of season 4 on our dev build. And I'm playing a barbarian right now. And I've been playing a lot with Dust Devils, which I know we'll talk maybe a little bit more about
we're
later.
gonna talk about Dust Devils.
But there's like opportunities to like spawn, like instead of spawning one Dust Devil, you'll spawn multiple Dust Devils. There's Dust Devil size. There's a lot of really and duration. Like there's a lot of really neat new things to play with to build upon other like play styles. I think it's really fun.
Yeah. That's really the goal of tempering is customization and really cool new ways of building your character. That's not just plus damage. There is still some bonus damage as you still need in order to actually do damage, but there's a lot of ways you can customize your skills and make it really your own.
Now, right now, you can temper legendary items.
Correct.
And rare items, but you can't temper unique items.
Correct. Unique items, kind of what you see is what you get, right? They drop still with the 4 affixes for the most part. Those are going to be unchanged. You won't be able to temper onto them.
With tempering, yeah.
With tempering, right.
And then we show the tempering durability, as part of, or tempering rerolls in this case. So the idea here is that like when the player has you're not happy with all the affixes you've got, you've kind of rerolled through all of your options. At the end of that process, you simply can't temper any longer on that item. There's not a way to reset that item back down. One of the goals that we have for ourselves in terms of like trying to have higher quality drops in general is to make it so it's a little bit easier, and also ensuring it's easier for you to reach those 925 capped items when you start to really deeply engage in features like this. Is you want to make it a little bit easier for you to go find some of those really good baseline templated items for you to start building on top of, as opposed to having it be like, I need to find like 70 helmets in the hopes I find a max roll cooldown reduction on it, right? Like we're in a different place now in terms of how we're thinking about that. In addition to the crafting, the trading changes that we've made as well. I want to make it a little bit easier for you to find some of these things, between it being a lot easier to have drops that are relevant for you up here when you're doing various types of content, but also that if you're playing with friends, there's opportunities for you to maybe trade some things around at the same time.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about finding really strong base items to build off of. And I think that goes great into our next point where we talk about greater affixes. So greater affixes are affixes that appear in the late game. They are more powerful versions of the normal affixes. So they come at a 1.5x multiplier on the affixes max roll. So let's say a hypothetical affix might come between like 50 to 100 of a stat. If it rolls greater, then you actually get 150 of that stat instead. Instead of the roll, it always comes in at max. So it comes in at that 150 mark. These are really exciting drops when you get into the late game. They're going to be immediately obvious whenever they drop on the ground. They're going to have a little change to the UI, so you can see it right away and hey, that one has greater affixes on it. And that's going to be ones that you're really going to want to pick up and make sure that you take a look at, and then you really want to build off of, because they're some of the strongest affixes in the game. I think we've got an example here. And one other note, these, as I mentioned, they're late game. They only appear on Ancestral Legendary items and Ancestral Uniques that are dropping in World Tier 4. I think we can zoom in on the top one here, where we can see we've got a little, like some Roman numerals at the end of it, 2. That indicates that this pair of gloves has 2 greater affixes on it. And when you actually go and pick it up, we can take a look at the tooltip of the item itself. And we can see that intelligence here is highlighted,
75%
and so is critical strike damage. And these roll at the max roll. And I think we've got a comparison kind of between, a standard version. So on the left is a non-greater version of a dagger. You've got, say, 74 dexterity, and maybe it rolled between 70 and 84. But on the right, we've got a greater version of dexterity, and that's going to always give you 126, which is 1.5 times the 84. Same with the critical strike damage down at the bottom. So if you find the dagger on the right, that's a really good one. I mean, not only do you have 2 greater affixes, you also max roll the attack speed in between. That is a great base item to start building through the tempering system.
You don't need to use barriers anymore.
thing we've got, the next topic to talk about is
The only
masterworking.
problem is there's going to be a lot
Masterworking
less
is a
affixes.
late game crafting system that we're going to use to upgrade the items. So once you kind of find a really good base item, maybe it has some greater affixes on it, and then you've tempered on the affixes that you want. You know, hey, you've found the exact affixes that are specific to your build that you've attached onto it. Now you're really pushing into that late game content. It's time to start masterworking. And masterworking has 12 ranks where you can upgrade the current affixes on your gear. So this isn't going to change any of the affixes like enchanting or like tempering does. This is just going to take the current ones and then upgrade them through 12
Every
ranks.
4
This is
ranks,
kinda like
a
the old
single
gear upgrade,
affix
right?
is massively
Similar,
upgraded.
yes. However,
be
both
investing a lot in
masterworking
these-
and tempering
these
are
items that you
replacing
find
the old gear upgrade system. The previous
But
system,
that-
you
that
just
makes
kind of
it
upgraded the item
for
power
interesting
and the
things
values
to
went up
do.
by a bit. These two systems
continue your
replace that,
growth
and
and
now you're
power.
going to be able to customize them and then masterwork
And
them
get
I'm
instead.
good with it.
significantly more powerful on the back end of this
Absolutely.
as well after these things are done.
Yeah.
Compared to item upgrade, yeah.
Absolutely. So the 12 ranks of masterworking, as opposed to the 5 of the old system, most of the ranks are going to increase all of your affixes on the gear by a small amount. But then every 4 ranks, so rank 4, 8, and 12, are going to upgrade a single affix by a large amount. So here's an example. The ring on the left is rank 2 masterworking. You can see that right up there by the item power. It says masterworking 2 out of 12. Let's focus in on like the maximum life affix there. So on the left at rank 2, you see we've got
So we're not going to level them up.
880
We're just going to
bonus
master
maximum
work.
life.
This is
And
essentially
so we take it,
extend the
masterwork it up
levels
to rank
to
3, and then that will upgrade that
to
to
12 from
920
5,
maximum life. So a
and
little
now
bit
you
of
have
an
a chance to
improvement.
get a really
But then once you hit
juicy
rank 4,
roll.
you actually get a much larger increase in maximum life. It goes from 920 all the way up to 1,120, while the other affixes on the gear stay static because they didn't roll randomly because we're only hitting 1. To Joe's point earlier about we still have some in development. This is in development content. It's
The
not
tempering
final,
ones
as the
don't go
watermark
up, though.
says. The tempered affixes at the bottom, the golem active cooldown reduction and the bone critical strike damage, those also would be being upgraded and are eligible to have this larger bonus. But in this particular screenshot example, those numbers didn't change, but they will
Okay.
change in the final, and there's a
Those
chance.
also get
That's
affected,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will be included just like all of the rest of them.
Good.
But yeah, so as you go through it, you're going to get kind of 3 of these effects at rank 4, 8, and 12, and they can all go on the same one. So if you get really, really lucky and you really needed a lot of maximum life, you might get just a ton of maximum life every time that increases. Or it could be on one of your tempered affixes. You could get tons of golem cooldown reduction if that's the kind of build that you're looking for. And once you fully masterworked an item, if it didn't really pan out the way you wanted to, the random rolls didn't quite go your way, you are able to reset it and try it again, but you will kind of lose all the materials that you've invested into it, but you can try that again. It doesn't completely lock you out of it.
Right. So once you've got like a really great pair of gloves or whatever that you've tempered at this point, you enchanted to get exactly the affix you wanted off it. Maybe you got some greater affixes on it in the first place when you started. Then you take that item assuming you got through all that process, you can take it into the master.
So you can
feature,
still enchant.
and then
That's
you
cool.
can kind of keep going at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and get the opportunity to kind of hopefully crit exactly the affixes you're looking for.
Yeah, and if you do get that right, you find something that's got critical strike damage, and then you hit all 3 times on it, super upgraded. That's going to be like one of the best items in the game that probably no one else has one exactly like that because you really needed to hit the right one every time. That's going to be a really powerful item that is going to be very memorable when you get all that coming together. I think we've got an example here to really highlight all of these systems taken together. So on before, this was that boned one restoration that we talked about right at the beginning when we talked about paring down the affix
12
list to just more simple intelligence, damage, and
So the
vulnerable
yellow
damage.
means you hit
And on
twice
the
on
right, you can
damage.
see it after it has been tempered. So we've got bone spirit damage. We've got chance for a bone splinter projectiles to cast twice. And then we can see intelligence has been highlighted in blue. That means it's had 1 of the upgrades from masterworking. And the damage stat on here has been upgraded twice. That's why it's in yellow when we got up to masterworking 12. And you can see how we've taken this progression, this item progression. So here, once you got it all the way up to masterworking 12, this is really kind of the pinnacle of what items can be in our new itemization world.
So 48.
So what I want to highlight here is that
the
the total
all 3.
the total depth of what an item can do and the complexity you can still make an item do a lot of different things, but on that before side, when you're looking for items that are dropping, that's all that you're going to parse through over there. It's just like 3 affixes. Did I get the ones I want? And you can just do that very quickly and parse through a lot of items that way. But you're going to be slowly, introducing that complexity over time to your items as you upgrade and masterwork them. So you're going to be building the items that you really want to be using.
Absolutely.
In terms of like lucking out on this, I think it's fun to call out like it is basically 5% upgrades to your affixes during the regular masterworking process. And then there's 3 randomly selected 25% upgrades to one of those affixes. So if you're very, very fortunate and you manage to triple up on a particular stat, you can do the math. It's a tremendous upgrade for that affix overall. For that slot.
If you want to go hard into one affix, you can go really hard into one affix.
You go really hard on CDR in this world, right?
I'm terrified.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can go hard into CDR, yes.
Or really hard on bonus projectiles, because those are cool and flashy.
Or bonus projectiles, that's actually true, yeah.
It's going to be really sweet.
Yep.
Bone spears everywhere.
Absolutely. But of course, you might be asking, okay, new items are great. Well, what am I going to do with all of these new items?
Before we even bridge to me, okay, this is a really good bridge. So 2 things I want to call out. One, masterworking works on unique items.
Correct.
Yes.
So some of those really cool affixes that can appear on unique items, not the power of the unique item, but a lot of like the really specific unique affixes. Those all benefit from the masterworking process as well, which are really significant, right? So I think that there's something really fun there. Also, you can make sure that when some of these unique items are dropping, they also can have greater affixes attached to them. So those same unique affixes that we're talking about, that is huge. Now you get an extra 50% value on top of that.
Yeah.
So you get 50% value on top of the unique item affix, and then on top of that you masterwork it. It can get really bonkers. So there's a good chase involved in this. But even allowing for player trading and everything else, there's still
That's good.
lots
Then
of
it
really
makes it so
exciting
that
stuff for players
uniques
to find.
aren't obsolete.
Yeah, and
other than
the other thing
just
I've seen a
their
little bit of
super
this
cool
in chat as
aspects,
well as a
'cause
lot of people are
if
going
they only have
when are
4
we actually
affixes,
able to
it puts them at a
experience this?
disadvantage
PTR.
right from the beginning.
PTR. Well, first
'Cause you can
PTR,
get
and
5
also
on
at the same
just
time,
a regular
this
legendary.
is something that does start immediately with season 4.
All
when
4
it
of those
begins.
better
This
be
is
juiced
all
up.
the
that,
items
like,
all
it
the
doesn't matter that you're
itemization
missing one.
changes will
It
start
has
with
to
the
be,
start
otherwise
of
it's
season
like, what
4. Because I know a lot of
what
people were
the
questioning because they're going well, we had heard
boys?
Gauntlet in the past, and then Gauntlet actually started mid-season. The itemization changes and all the changes you're hearing today will start right at the beginning of season 4, which is on May 14th. PTR being on April 2nd.
May 14th. It's a
There's
whole
a
month
couple
later.
other things I also want to
It's
say.
a whole month.
I
It
got
was
one
supposed
too.
to be
Do you?
April
Oh, no,
16th.
you go first.
All right, I want to clarify some things. I know it's going to be a lot of questions that people have on greater affixes.
Yes.
So greater affixes, the way that you get them is you can only get them from things that drop. So you're actually looking for that moment when you kill the mob, kill the enemy, the loot drops. That's the exciting moment that we're targeting. Enchanting is still going to exist. You can still enchant your affixes like normal on those 3 ones that drop. You cannot enchant into a greater affix. You can enchant out of a greater affix.
That's
So
dumb.
if you choose to, if you've got like a
That
1
would
greater
suck.
affix
Like
item,
you
you can
get
enchant
greater
that greater affix
affixes
to
on
something
all the
else,
shit you
but
don't
it won't
want.
change
That's
to
gonna
another
suck.
greater, and you can't change anything into a greater. It's all about killing monsters, finding that moment that is really exciting when the item drops, seeing if that works for you. So I just wanted to clarify that on how enchanting works and kind of what we're going for.
Yeah, absolutely. Focusing on the drop, the moment
The
of
drop is
excitement
the moment
when you
of
get
excitement that we're going for there.
Right, and then one other thing I want to call out as well that we didn't talk about already, and that is that there's a lot of other changes that we haven't actually discussed here that you'll see when we get to play in the PTR. But one of them I think is really cool is we actually add a bunch of other new baseline rare affixes that can appear on items.
Yeah.
That players haven't seen before.
Yes.
So there's as an example of a few of these, we have Fury per second. Can appear on items, which is very, very exciting and very interesting for my barbarian friends.
Transformative.
Yeah.
It's very transformative. There's a number of other ones like life per hit. Is now
Yes,
something that
that's
players can
nice.
find as you
I'm
work the
in.
experience. Are there any that you two
and
thought
also-
of that are kind of cool or?
And also ones that are cool and powerful that appear on different slots. So previously, weapons almost always had bonus damage of some sort. We've extended that, so a lot of weapons can now have resource cost reduction. They can have bonus attack speed and other things that increase your output through not just saying damage to a certain way. More interesting ways of increasing your output.
Yeah, very cool.
To me, bonus projectiles. That's just the
Wow.
most popular. I'm terrified of it. It's so cool though, but it's gonna be
is really
pretty sick.
cool.
Having bonus projectiles drop and then have that potentially be a greater affix when
And
it
then you
blows, and then you
masterwork it,
masterwork
now
bonus projectiles,
yeah.
and it gets silly.
Fireballs.
I know
They're just
we
basic-
want to talk
basic
about
attacks.
some in-game stuff that's coming to the game. Maybe we leave that for the end of the stream itself, right before we go into Q&A. Is there? I'm gonna ask production here. I'm gonna pivot them. Is there a way that we can jump to class changes coming? To
Me next.
Yeah, you next. I'm
We
pivoting.
got kind of a shrug. So like, I think so.
Yeah, we'll go through the end game stuff here because we do have a lot of additional things that we still need to talk about that even pair with this itemization, these itemization changes. But we'll jump into class changes really quickly. And then
Sure,
we'll
we can
jump
go
back
to me
the
next.
game.
That's fine.
Let's do it.
Why are you
Take us away,
pivoting?
Adam.
All right, so are we ready to go? Yeah, okay. So we've got kind of 3 big goals for class updates. We've got a lot going on. I'm going to try and breeze through a little quick in the interest of time. The first one is going through a very high volume of meaningful class updates. And what I mean by meaningful is, not just moving numbers up and down on things that exist, but kind of either updating systems of how things interact at a systemic level, or adding things that are really, really powerful and are actually going to move the needle and change how you interact with the class or the skill or the legendary or whatever we're changing. Next one is making flat damage effects more viable. So by flat damage, I'm talking about things like dust devils, earthquakes, dancing bolts, all these things. I talked a few Campfire chats ago about how I wanted to make these things like a lot more viable and scale better, and we're going to be making good on that in Season 4. I'm excited we'll go into more details, but yeah, that's one of the big things that's changing this season. And last but not least, opening up designs to be more generally useful. So kind of similar to item affixes, how you've got these like multi-conditional things. We're going through classes across the board and going and looking for ways that we can open up things. So you're going to find that things that were a little more restrictive, we're going to try and interact with more different pieces. So something may have only talked to core skills, now it can be any skill, things like that. Where we're trying to make things less conditional so that you can mix and match things a lot more often.
I'm in. Conditional things are kind of just
in addition to those 3 things, those are our goals. I'm also going to be talking a little bit today about PTR balance and hardcore updates. And little PSA, everything that you see here right now, the tuning is still in flux. We're going through the balancing process right now of these things. So any exact numbers that you see of updates is very much subject to change, not only before PTR, but of course one of our goals for you playing PTR is helping us with the tuning and balance, because everything is going to be changing. So expect things to change, but that's kind of where we're at right now. So first, let's talk about uniques. So in Season 4, you're going to be getting double the normal amount of uniques added to the game. Normally, every class gets 1. Every class is going to be getting 2 this time. So again, more content. We're also adding a new Uber unique here, Tyrael's Might. This is a defensive-oriented unique. It's going to be a chess piece. So you can see the stats there. Lots of resistance-oriented things and damage reduction. By the way, in this new world, damage reduction is going to be much harder to come by. So it's actually a lot more special that it exists here. And the special power of this is that when you're at maximum life, so when you have the entire life bar full, you're going to be shooting out projectiles very similar to the artillery shrine. So you can see here kind of in action, you can see that sometimes he's attacking and it's not going off. And then as he heals up, you get those bolts.
My God, that is just a straight...
really flashy.
That's a fucking... insane fucking...
So yeah, class updates. Like I mentioned before, we're really looking to move the needle on these. We are still going to be having a number of changes, quite a few of just things going up and down for tuning. But we're also looking at updating some systems and designs. And I'm going to give you some examples. Now, everything I talk about here today, I'm giving you a small snippet of the things that we're doing, like 1 or 2 examples per class. But when you get the patch notes, you're going to see it's like a giant wall. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing everywhere.
Just a slice of the overall pie.
Yeah.
I'm not sad.
So some examples here. Skill tag updates. So we're not only doing this on the Sorceress, but on other classes as well. But this is the one example I want to give. One of the pain points that Sorceress has always had is that they have kind of core skills and then mastery skills. Mastery skills are things like Firewall, Meteor, things like that. And the mastery skills, we're always kind of second class to the core skills because we had a lot of things that scaled core skill damage, but not mastery skill damage. So we've updated our skill tags and kind of changed things around so that they make more sense. So you're going to see more skill tags added to things across the board. And the example here is that mastery skills will also just have the core skill tag. They'll be considered both mastery and core skills. So all your core skill damage bonuses, interactions, all that stuff will just work now. Did you have something?
Yeah,
Charles?
just we also talked about like mobility skill tag added
Yes.
to a lot of skills as well, and how that interacts with the tempering system. You have ways of getting mobility skill cooldown reduction that ties into the same
Yeah,
concept.
so yeah, we're actually adding the mobility skill check to all things across all classes that have mobility attached to them, so then they can interact with the itemization system, and you'll have these things working in tandem together. That's a good point. Yeah, so now some other examples. Frozen Orb on the Sorceress is getting a lot of love. Before, when you cast it, it would go an exact set distance and then blow up, but now it's going to go exactly where you point it at it to with your cursor. So, you know, you're not going to hit your life
What
if
if
you
you're
run
using the
into like a
controller?
suppressor elite, for example. You can actually make it fire point blank or all the way across the screen. And we'll actually be showing some video of that as well later. We also have a new unique that we're going to have video of that's really awesome. So Frozen Orb Sorceresses are
it's
going to
like
be
we're
really
playing
happy this
Frozen
season.
Orb on a PTR.
And next, Necromancer. I've been talking for a while about Necromancer minions and how
I
we're
like
going to make
Frozen
them
Orb,
better.
even
We're
without
delivering on
changes.
that in Season
It's
4.
fucking
The first
juicy.
change is that
Frozen
we're going to
Orb and
inherit 100%
Blizzard.
of the player stats. So, you know, your crit chance, crit damage, all
It's
those things, they're
juicy.
just going to inherit it from you. So they're going to scale way better with you, the player. And this is not only going to apply to Necromancer minions, but all minion types in our game. Things like Druid Wolves are also going to be inheriting this and are going to get a pretty big power bump. We're also looking. We took a look at the Book of the Dead, and basically revamped everything. All the upgrades almost are getting some type of either number or big functionality change, and I'm going to be going through some examples there. But it's just going to be a lot more punchy. We're not only looking for effectiveness here,
So
like making
since
things stronger.
Season 4 is
we
going to be
also
my
like the rule of
Necro
cool, where you know the
playthrough.
things that are awesome
I
and
play minions
look
in?
cool and are visual are going to stand
I
out
don't know.
more.
We're
And so
gonna try it
trying to do
all and
that
see
as
what's
much as
most
we can.
fun.
So next, let's talk about game balance. So as I kind of alluded to earlier, you know, the landscape of everything is changing pretty drastically, right? Itemization is going to be changing a lot of how player power works and how things work in the game. We've got a lot of class updates that are going to be changing how things are. You can expect a pretty big shakeup of like just how all the different classes and builds perform. Like it's going to be a brave new world really here. But you know, normally we promised a while back that we're going to do lists of everything that's perceived as a nerf. I'm not going to be going through every single thing today. You'll be able to see everything in the patch notes on the PTR, and that's mostly in the interest of time, just because there's so much change that's happening. But I am going to give you, a snippet to do good on that promise of kind of how the game is now, and some things that you can expect that are going to be lowered in power in the future. So some examples here. Generally, Tybalt's Will, everyone's favorite pants, right? And not only is it really good because the effect is good, but also it's damage on pants, which makes it really, really good. That damage amount is being reduced. Same with Banished Lord's Talesman. Both of these uniques are insanely powerful. They're still going to be really good after this, but the damage is just being lowered so that other things can be competitive. Next, the Barbarian, everybody's favorite charging class. First thing that we're doing is, many of you may not know this, but when we launched the game, we actually gave them 10% inherent damage reduction. This was back when melee classes in general and the Barbarian were having trouble in the early game. Our game balance has changed radically since then, and we don't feel like they really need this anymore.
Barbarian's gonna be sad.
And we don't want them to have an inherent advantage over all the other classes in the game anymore. So that's going to be removed. And even like I mentioned before when Charles was talking, damage reduction in general is going to be much more rare and special. You're not just going to find it on any defensive stat. When you see it, it's going to be something that you're going to really value because it's hard to come by. And we also think Barbarians are still going to be really good in this regard because their skill tree has a lot of it. Their skills like Challenging Shout have it. So I think they're going to be fine, but we're just removing this extra part. Also, we're reducing the effectiveness of Charge, Hammer of the Ancients, and
They
Unbridled
juiced
Rage.
the shit
All
out of it
three
in
of these
Season
things
3.
have been incredibly powerful. Some things like Unbridled Rage have kind of been stamping out
Barbarian's getting
competing
nerfed.
things for a long time just because it's so good.
Not playing Barbarian in
Our goal
Season
here is
4.
not to remove these from the game or make these builds not viable at all. They're going to be reduced, but I still think they're going to be really powerful and effective. And next, we're going to go over to the Sorcerer. We got a couple bug fixes here. We have more bug fixes than this, but this is just some that I wanted to call out. The first one, we had one where the evade cooldown reduction affix was triggering off of unstable currents casts. And so what this basically meant was you equip those boots to have evade cooldown reduction, and then you use unstable currents, and you had like infinite uptime on teleport evades, which made you just teleport around forever. This has been fixed, so now it's only going to work with intentional casts now, as it was
Never used it
intended to.
anyways.
And the next one is Isu's Ferocity. This is a key passive on the Sorcerer that used to apply its critical strike damage to all damage types, but it was the fire key passive. Now it's only going to apply to fire damage as it was intended to.
Okay.
And again, this is just a snippet of
Not gonna
everything,
use
but
that
there's going to
anyways.
be a lot more stuff. And again, like
I
everything
used
you know
that in
is basically
season
gonna change
3.
because of how many things are being
Suckers.
updated in the game. So I wouldn't worry too much about any specific build. All right, so now let's get to the fun part, class updates. So I'm going to be going through all the different classes here and just showing like 1 to 2 examples of kind of the ideas of things that we're changing. Again, lots more than what you're going to see, but kind of giving you an idea of what to expect in the direction that we're going here. So first we'll start with the Barbarians. So I like Dust Devils. I've liked them for a long time, and not just things like Dust Devils, but all those types of extra affixes that spawn things. So here's an example of Wind Slasher. This is a legendary that we updated. So it's the double swing legendary that spawns Dust Devils. Before it was you would cast double swing twice and you like go in and out and in and out, and every other time you'd make a Dust Devil, right? Pretty cool. We're updating this now, so every single time that you cast double swing, it does a Dust Devil. And instead of every other time spawning 1, every other time spawns 3. So now instead of going hit, then 1, then hit, then 1, it's 1, then 3, then 1, then 3, which means a lot more Dust Devils.
Lot
So I wanna
more
call it again,
Dust
there's
Devils.
tempered affixes that give you chances to spawn additional Dust Devils when you
Yes.
spawn a Dust Devil.
And affixes that talk to them directly in itemization with
Yeah.
Temporary, like their size can go up, their damage can go up. Like we're actually going to make this a thing.
I know
which
I'm talking a lot about Dust Devils. There's cool stuff for all
This
the
is
classes.
Earthquakes,
It's just that I
it's
played
Desecrated
a lot of
Ground.
Dust Devil bar during one season. So yeah.
It's the example I tell our team. It's like always I say Earthquakes and Dust Devil. Like these things need to be cool.
Yeah.
And all the ones like that though across the other classes. Anyways, that's the Bard. So there's not just this, lots of other legendaries are like this. Druid, for example, a thing that has been long complained about to me is that lacerate isn't up to par to other things. So there on the left is what you can see exists today, where the upgrades for lacerate are, the first one is you heal for a little bit for every hit, and then it's doubled when you crit. And then the next upgrade is that its initial strike crits and does a little bit more damage. We're just merging those together. So both of those combined is going to be your first lacerate upgrade. And now we added a second upgrade there, where every time that lacerate crits, all of your shape-shifting skills are going to deal more damage for 10 seconds, up to 40%. So now we're adding a very strong, potent, multiplicative damage bonus buff after Lacerate. So now, Lacerate, it's going to give you invulnerability, life leech, crit, and then a potent damage buff for a while after you cast it. So that if you can get cooldown reduction on it, you can keep that buff rolling and actually have like a build going on.
It's cool. I'm not playing it, but that's cool.
Next, the Sorceress. So here, instead of just text, I'm actually going to show you some videos. The first one is going to be showing that Frozen Orb change that we talked about here. So basically, you can see here that where the person is targeting with their cursor is where the Frozen Orb is going to explode.
How do you do that
So
with
now
a
you can
controller?
make it point blank. You can make it far away. It's going to be wherever you go. And for you controller players, this is going to interact just like other skills where it just goes to an enemy, and then if there's nothing nearby, it just goes a set distance before blowing up.
Okay. It goes to an
Next, we're
enemy.
going to be talking about the unique. So prefacing this unique a little bit before we show the video, the basic idea is conjurations are cool and Frozen Orb is cool. And what's going to happen with this unique is Frozen Orb is going to have a chance when it explodes to spawn conjurations, and then anytime that your conjurations attack, they have a chance to throw Frozen Orbs at enemies.
Oh, fucking
So now we're
great.
going to see this in action here. So it's called Fractured Winter Glass, and this video is just the person casting Frozen Orb with this unique. So at first it's like, okay, it's fine. You see a couple conjurations, right? But then as you go on, you can see that the Frozen Orbs are making more of them, and then the conjurations
that's
are also throwing
fucking
out more
beautiful.
Frozen Orbs.
That's what I'm
This is
playing.
all just from pressing one button.
This is all just from throwing
I
out
have
Frozen Orbs.
just been right-clicking this whole time.
Yeah, so it's like when
That's awesome.
when I place a firewall, and my firewall makes a meteor, and then my meteor makes a
That's
firewall.
fucking beautiful.
Yes, but
That's
But
what I'm playing.
conjurations, Yeah,
So
yeah.
Hydra throwing Frozen Orb.
Frozen
Fireball,
Orb
exactly.
Conjuration
Sounds cool,
build.
too. Okay,
That's-
Fair enough.
that's what I'm
Stay
playing.
focused.
I love.
But yeah, so
fucking
this is an
Frozen
example
Orb.
of the cool uniques that we're adding to the game. Next, let's move on to the Rogue. So we're also updating some class mechanics and other things. Inner Sight has kind of been eclipsed by other things in our game, right? When we first made Inner Sight, it triggered off of this idea that you were going to target a single enemy, pick on that enemy, and build up this gauge, and then you have unlimited energy, and unlimited energy was supposed to be this really crazy, rare thing that was not, going to happen very often. It turned out that's not really the case through itemization and other things. You can kind of solve resource a lot easier nowadays.
Yeah, it's fun to do that too.
Yeah, and it's fun. We want people to do that.
Yeah.
So we have to update our other systems in accordance to that, which is kind of what we're doing here. So now you don't only have to hit the marked enemy, but you can charge up Inner Sight off of everything. So as you're blowing up waves of enemies, you still want to make sure you're hitting the one that's targeted, but now you'll get a little bit of gauge off of any enemy that you hit. And now in addition to that, the payoff is better. So not only are you going to get that unlimited energy still, but you're also going to get a 25% crit chance boost. So now you're going to be hitting harder when
pretty
you
cool.
are in inner sight mode. So now there's actually a damage component there too, in addition to the unlimited energy. Next, Necromancer. So like I said, Book of the Dead is getting upgrades. I kind of picked one slice from each part, from each minion type. So here you can see your Skeletal Reapers, the wind-up attacks now, can reduce one of your active cooldowns by a pretty chunky amount. 3 seconds is insane, but there'll be a number that'll make sense there. Maybe it is 3. Next one for the mages. You know, one of their upgrades used to be that they've made frozen enemies vulnerable, and now they just make everything vulnerable. So actually, if you want cold mages to solve vulnerable for you, you pretty much can, just with this upgrade. And last but not least, we have your Iron Golem. So Iron Golem, now that when you tell it to go somewhere and do that slam attack where it pounds the ground, it'll also pull in enemies, very similar to Corpse Tendrils. So it's not as required, you know, to put that on your
I'm
bar.
going to play with at
way to
least
kinda get
one
that effect.
companion. At
Another
least
thing I didn't put on the slide that I want to call
one
out,
companion
golems that'll
type
make
when I'm
players
playing
happy.
Necro.
Golem now, while you're
We'll see which
CC'd or
one
at
it
any
is.
time,
I don't think
when
it's
you
going to be
activate it, it's going to
entirely
make both your
companions,
golem and you unstoppable. So now you have another source of unstoppable on the Necromancer for minion builds, which I think will make players really happy.
Yeah, it's like buddy cop situation.
Yeah, right. You and your buddies
friend
going
there,
and
just-
taking people out.
That's right, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome for a Golemmancer build for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So next, like I was saying before, flat damage effects, dust devils, and earthquakes are going to be your friends now. So before, these legendaries did not scale very well. And what I mean by that is that the damage that they did was fixed. So if you got like a dust devil or earthquake or whatever, you got that legendary at like level 25, the damage that it did was just a number, and that number didn't really go up with you or scale with you in a meaningful way. Now, under the hood, all of these things are going to be scaling based off your weapon damage, which means that these things will scale with you as a player and be much more viable now. And I believe we can zoom in on this example I give. So this one is Dancing Bolts. I'm actually running this legendary right now, my Lightning Storm Druid. So you can see that, you know, it's the same legendary on each side. This is me just changing out my weapon while I have this legendary equipped. This is in Season 4, so you can see it does an amount of damage on the left, you know, about 5,400 there. Now that number on the right, I didn't get a new legendary, I didn't change it, I didn't do anything except change my weapon, and that increased the damage that these Dancing Bolts are going to do. So when you get these legendaries now, they're going to scale with you and do quite a bit more damage and be punchy as you go into the late game.
Okay.
This is in addition to like tempering and other things, talking to these things, so you can actually itemize into making them more powerful as well.
Okay.
And it's funny because there's some people I think that didn't catch. Maybe they didn't catch the first part of the itemization, but they're looking at this second legendary, the new one, and they're going like, "Well, it's only got 3 stats or something." This is. You should probably watch a recording of this.
Yeah, that's when it drops, not after you've done all your stuff
exactly.
on it.
There's a lot of itemization changes to make you know, the items feel more valuable themselves in Season 4. I recommend watching the recording just for people that may have
You
missed
gotta watch the
itemization
whole
or check
thing,
out our blog.
Put
motherfuckers.
more affixes on them.
You're wasting everybody else's time.
That's right.
These are the fucking idiots that aren't listening
All
in
right,
class.
so last but not least is opening
Pay
up
attention,
designs. Like I
motherfuckers.
talked about, one of our goals here, make things more generally useful, less restrictions. We can zoom in here. I have 2 examples. One is Azurath here on the left, a unique sword. So 2 things going on here.
Your core
First, you can
skills
see
have
before it was
up
that
to
your
a
core skills have a
20% chance to
and deal
freeze
a bunch of
enemies for
damage
3
to them.
seconds and deal
On the right,
11,000.
we've removed the core skill
804.
requirement, and now any of your skills can have a chance to freeze enemies. So this means you can use it on like charge and other similar things like
That's
that. Where
fucking
maybe
great.
you want to make a build around something that's not a core skill to proc this, you totally can, or it's just going to proc more often and you just play normally.
Non-physical
Second
damage.
thing you'll notice is on the left it says Barbarian only. We just removed that restriction. So now any class that can use a sword can use Azurath. Again, we're just trying to look for places where there was restrictions, and when we can, we're just removing them.
Okay.
Next one is Opportunist. This one I'm really excited about on the Rogue. I think I'm going to play a Rogue this season. So on the left is the old version, where it says when you break stealth with an attack, you can drop stun grenades, right? And then those grenades deal damage and stun enemies. On the right, we've removed a lot of these restrictions and made it more useful. So now it's when you enter or break stealth, and you don't need to break stealth when you attack. So anytime that you cast stealth or go into stealth, you're going to get 2 sets of these, and it's just going to be when you go in and out, and you just get stun grenades. You also notice that this is a tuning thing, but the stun duration on stun grenades has been buffed. It's a second now. And then we also did a thing that I'm really excited about here, where every single stun grenade legendary will increase the damage of your grenade skills, and all of them are going to have this. So if you want to make a stun grenade build, if you collect, the 4 or 5 of these legendaries that kind of combo together, every one is going to incrementally increase your grenade's damage as well. To a
That's
point
cool.
where they'll be doing
Stun
a lot
grenades
more
was
meaningful damage in your build.
pretty cool. I used that for a while in my rogue playthrough.
All right, last but not least, we've got hardcore updates. So for you hardcore players, Elixir of Death Evasion is being removed from the game. It's dying, and it's not coming back, just like you will in hardcore. We've also redesigned the Flame Shield enchantment. So before, it used to be a cheat death mechanic, where when you took fatal damage, it would, proc and save you. Now it's going to automatically activate when you lose a certain amount of life, and then it has an internal cooldown on that. So we've heard from the community kind of loud and clear. They really want hardcore to be hardcore, and so we're going to deliver on that. Now you actually have to be careful. The Sanctuary is a very scary place, and you won't have those fail safes to keep you alive anymore.
Oh well. I'm not playing hardcore.
And finally, PTR feedback. So like we mentioned before, we're going to be looking at the PTR feedback very carefully. Please let us know what you think. The class team is particularly excited about what's working for you and what's not working for you. When you're kind of tuning your feedback and typing it to us, we're really looking at things like tuning and balance. We know that things are going to be pretty wacky.
Who's going to write an essay about this? Probably a bunch of people.
We're also looking for what changes really
I
made
don't know
the
if I
game
have
more
time
fun
for
to you.
that.
You're going to see a lot of them,
But
a
I
lot
should.
more than what
I should make
today.
time for that.
We
right?
really want to know what changes we did maybe didn't hit
We'll
the mark
see.
and why. Maybe we
It
didn't
may
go
be,
far enough, or this thing could have been a little way
It may
better
be
with just a small
something
tweak.
that
And then last but
I
not
just
least, we
can't
want
be
to know what
bothered
would you
with. We'll
like to see
see.
that didn't make it in, right? We're forever going to be updating this game, and we really want to know, a lot of
Forever
these
and
changes are coming from your feedback,
ever.
like,
It's
flat
time to go
damage
back here.
scaling, unstoppable coming on the golem for necromancers who've been
Still a
wanting
lot.
more sources of it. What other things are you seeing that, have always
Jesus.
kind of bugged you or have always been kind of a pain point that you would like us
I
to
gotta
change?
pee.
And we'll be looking for that feedback. So yeah, that's pretty much everything we got for classes. Thanks everybody again.
Yes. So
We're excited.
there is like ton of information for classes, and it's funny because everyone's treating this PTR feedback slide as if we're done.
No.
Right?
There's more. There's a lot more.
Oh,
There's more.
I'm sorry.
He hasn't
everybody.
even gotten
Yeah.
started yet.
As the chat calls it, Joe Pipe or Rap God has not spoken yet. So
He hasn't dropped the mic yet.
He will be talking here now about endgame specific items.
Sure, thanks. So, a couple things I want to talk about first. We're going to talk about some new content stuff in just a minute, but there are some other things that are also changing at the same time. You'll see on the PTR, we've made adjustments to world tiers, and that we've changed the XP modifier that you get for opting into certain world tiers. So, so the reason why we're doing this, we want to get players to endgame a little bit faster. So we've made an adjustment where World Tier 2
They
now
better
goes
like
from giving you
endgame better
20% bonus XP, gives you
be
50%
worth
bonus
doing
XP.
then, right?
World Tier 3 now gives you 150% bonus XP as opposed to the 100% you got before. And then World Tier 4 gives you 250% bonus XP instead of the 200% that you got before. So again, we want to get players into the space where they're getting a chance to play with these new items. They're getting a chance to see some of the new content we're going to be talking about in just a minute. And experience more of the end game and have a little less emphasis on the level up process.
Well, that's
being
dumb.
Like a lot longer as it is today.
Like whatever is going to
this
be added
this
here
is our stated
better
intent. We want more
be
players to be able to
fun
reach level
as
100.
fuck,
We
man.
want them to get more of
Because
these,
if
these
it's
level
not,
100
that's just not a good idea.
925 items. We want them to start seeing more greater affixes. We want them to engage in tempering and masterworking. And we want them to see everything else the game has to offer. We want to make sure that we're removing some of the restrictions and making that possible.
I hope like that's not a net of okay. So it took me
all of the
50 hours to
are just one more
get
step
to
on the journey of Diablo
100
4.
in
We're gonna
season
continue,
3.
as Adam already called
Now
out,
does it
continue to
take
make the game
me
better based on feedback?
35 hours and then I'm
cool
spending
stuff
15
that,
to do
that
all
we
this
think is
master
good for the game,
working and
but
stuff?
also
If
that
it's a
we're
net
hearing
50
from our
hours,
player
like
base,
what's
our
the point?
community, would be really, really great.
That's
for the game
not. That
experience.
should not
So,
be the goal.
with
That should not be
quick
the
little
case
thing out of the
either.
way, let's go ahead and jump into the first major update we have planned that you get a chance to see on PTR. And that is we made a significant update to Helltide. Now, I
Higher
think that everyone
density
will
is
remember
good.
that in Season 3, we made an adjustment to Helltide timing, where now they're basically up for
Hellborn
55 minutes out
enemy
of
player
every hour. There's a
classes.
5-minute gap between each Helltide experience.
That's cool.
And we think that that's great. Players are able to get better access to Forgotten Souls and all the gameplay there.
Blood
But we
Maiden.
also, like, looking back on Season 2 and the Blood Harvest regions where the armies of Lord Zir were marching across Sanctuary, as we all recall from quarter 4 of last year, and capturing people and draining them of blood. That was we thought that was a really fun, frenetic, like social.
Yeah, Bloody
experience.
Harvest was
Overall,
great.
Like it's just a blast, kind of go through, kill vampires, save people, and summon bloodseekers as well along the way, and getting good rewards as you go. It was a fun experience. In Season 3, we had a different take on that idea with the form of Arcane Tremors, where players can go and engage in a number of different small activities and traps and also manage to summon Heralds of Malthus in a group and go ahead and get more like tuning stones and more and governing stones and continue to like just get more rewards from that experience. And again, we thought that was pretty fun, right? So we wanted to take some of these ideas back to Helltide, and I'll be actually I think it might be even easier if we could just throw to Ruben potentially, who I think might actually be able to be in Helltide right now.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Looks like that's the case. So we want to take some of these ideas back to Helltide. Hello, yes, you're going to get destroyed. Yeah, we want to take some of these ideas back to Helltide and make sure that our overworld, exciting, demonic invasion experience that players get to go through here is just more fun to
He's
engage
100.
with.
Was that just a giant hellworm belching a bunch of enemies at?
That was a giant hellworm belching a bunch of enemies up. So a bunch of things have changed. So one of the things that let me dive in. So one of the things that we did is we add this new idea of a threat system. Now you'll see the eagle-eyed among you can look to the left of the minimap. Thank you, Ruben. Can look to the left of the minimap, and you'll see a horizontal bar segmented in 3 pieces next to that kind of like half-completed pentagram there. As the players are killing demons in Helltide areas, they are slowly growing their threat over the course of the experience. And as they do that, they're going to find like more like ambushes. They're going to find more creatures coming and trying to kill them as they kind of like roll through the space. And they're gaining threat by doing anything. If they're opening tortured gifts, if they are killing like regular monsters and elites, they're always earning more threat for the things that they do. The armies of hell are paying more attention. So as the player is going to go through this process, they are going to start feeling like more pressure as they go through the experience. Now, once the player has gotten towards the end of this, like they actually have, when the armies of hell have been fully alerted, you'll hear a tone, which I think that I think we might actually hear soon potentially. I guess we'll have to see. But you'll hear a tone alerting you to the fact that the armies of hell are basically coming for your blood, right? They're coming for you at this time. And in that case, you're going to see that there's going to be a new creature type that's going to appear, which we'll be able to get to in just a second. Some of the other big changes that are happening in Helltide alongside this, while we kind of wait for some of this stuff to happen, is we have reduced the level requirement or the world tier requirement for Helltides. You'll start to see them in lower world tiers now, so they're in a great way for you to level up. Okay, it looks like the forces of hell have been alerted. So now there's going to be like it's going to be almost a little more of a holdout. More invasions and ambushes are going to start to occur at this time. And it's going to have a kind of cap-off event towards the end. We'll talk about as it arrives. But you can see right now that threat is draining while this event is occurring. So you've kind of like reached that maximum threshold. The minions of hell are coming for you. You're going to be kind of fighting pretty hard for this stuff. But it's a great way to get like access to a lot of elites. Once this bar is drained once again, you can start building it up by again going out, doing more things inside the Helltide experience.
Still veiled crystals.
More opportunities for more cinders and more of these ambushes again as time goes on. Looks like we're getting towards the end of this now. Oh yeah,
should be getting this Hellborn here.
Yeah. So yes. And now one of the Hellborn has managed to appear. Hellborn they're very much a similar creature to some of the Bloodseekers that we've seen in the past. These are adventurers who have fallen to the
they're pretty thick too.
Gravities of hell.
Holy shit!
Now serving their infernal masters. They have great drops, like they'll drop like legendary equipment, and they will also drop summoning materials for Lord Zir moving forward. So there's more ways for you to get some of those mats as you go through.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's actually one of the other things that we did as part of our general updates is we kind of wanted to go through and
consolidate
do
those,
easier
please.
to find more of those boss summoning materials, like from doing like different kinds of content. So while obviously you can go to Helltides and open tortured gifts to get living steel pretty quickly, we want to make sure that there's like if you find like a treasure goblin, there's a chance now that treasure goblin could drop a random boss summoning material. When you go and you open bounty caches or whisper caches at the end of a bunch of whispers runs, like in that situation, you'll also get a chance to get a random boss summoning material.
Good.
And we find more opportunities through different parts of the experience in like local events, like when you're going and just finding events and you manage to complete the mastery objective of an event now, there's a chance for you to get a boss summoning material there. Even elites have a very, very low chance to drop some of these materials. And again, all to make it just a little bit easier to kind of like gain access to these bosses as you're leveling up and playing, even if you're not saying specifically in just Nightmare Dungeons to get Distilled Fear or something else, right? So yeah, I think those are going to be some pretty fun updates for the players. That's obviously
pretty
not
exciting.
Everything.
Yeah.
So so another thing that we're doing as part of this is that we are adding a new boss to the games. We're adding
fancy.
Andariel.
Andariel.
So you
Okay.
can now fight Andariel. She is summonable by defeating the Beast in Ice and Lord Zir. And she's got the same,
drop table as
Duriel.
Duriel. Okay.
So we want to make sure that players have a couple different ways to kind of gain access to these really, really powerful uniques that Duriel drops, but also for that shot at getting those uber uniques without always requiring players to go back to those same places. So between opening up the options of how you gain access to materials you can use to go farm uber uniques a little bit earlier, to like now saying, hey, go do Nightmare Dungeons, go do some
it's
content,
just
alt-type content to gain access to Beast and Ice and Lord Zir.
I don't know.
You can go farm Andariel
Doing
there.
Duriel
Yeah,
is
that's gonna
just
be like a really,
fucking
really fun
kind of
change.
boring though. I guarantee
Andariel's a
doing
really cool fight. I
Andariel
think we
will
might
be the
actually
same.
have like a quick little
Now you
shot
just have
of
another place to
summoning
go
for
and try
Andariel.
and roll the
As we all
dice.
know her and love her.
Essentially, she was a fun fight though.
She's back. She's tough. You know, it's gonna be.
I want to say
be
the
fun.
fight's been updated too. It's
Yeah, the
not
fight.
exactly the same as what
Yeah.
you did before.
Yeah,
so.
the designer's been very excited about this fight and very excited about Andariel for a while, bringing her back into the equation.
She's
So,
a cool boss.
She's gonna be a lot of fun to summon.
Oh, the Poison Nova classic.
Yeah.
Where's her health bar?
Okay, enough Andariel. Enough Andariel.
All right, yeah.
People will see that.
Yeah,
We're on a timer, people. Okay, I got things to talk about still. Okay, but that's not even all the things that we're changing with regards to bosses. There's more stuff that we're doing as well. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about in just a minute is a new feature called the Pit. And inside the Pit, you're going to be earning Stygian stones you'll be able to use to summon higher level versions of all of these bosses as you go deeper into the experience. So we think this is extremely exciting. It provides another way for players to be able to like express their build strength, and going and fighting these bosses are going to provide much greater rewards. In fact, when you kill one of these new very, very powerful tormented versions of these bosses out there, they are going to give you one resplendent spark the first time you kill any of them. So of like all the ones that you can summon, the first time you kill one of them, you're going to get a resplendent spark for you to use in the future. Now, and that is not all that we're doing. Obviously, I mentioned the Pit. So if we could just go ahead and well, I guess we can talk about it. I'm going to speak to it actually. Yeah. So we've been getting a lot of feedback from like our experience with the Abattoir of Zir. You know, so towards the end of season 2, we had this like really difficult like dungeon dive. We were going against again forces of Lord Zir inside this experience, and fighting Bloodseekers and kind of racing the clock. And that was a pretty fun experience. We got a lot of really good information and feedback about how that really played out. We made a number of adjustments in the form of this new content type that we're calling the Artificer's Pit. And what it effectively is a way for players to go and once players have managed to complete a tier 45 nightmare dungeon, which is filled with like level 100 monsters, they're going to gain access to a quest that's going to like send them around the world looking for rune shards. And rune shards are just this new material that players will collect to open up Artificer's Rifts. And they drop from elite creatures, they drop all over the place. Like it's pretty easy to find, the materials you'll need to start this process. And when you have a number of them, you can bring them back to this obelisk in Karagar and kind of use that to like form your first pit run effectively. And there's hundreds of levels of this, and the monsters that you will begin fighting immediately are all like right at level 100. Do we have
we have a video of it.
Yeah. Let's see what we got. So we have Ruben like kind of near
live,
there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, good. We have the live play.
With that awesome debug text.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, with the awesome debug text. Everybody, it's PTR. Look forward, and we're talking about dev stuff right now. This is what it looks like sometimes. So okay, so we see here that Ruben's coming here. He's already done the rift before. He's going to go ahead and just open up a tier 1 Artificer's Rift, and we'll see how this goes. So he's going to spend 1 rune shard to do this. That's going to open up right here in Karagar. And we're going to go, there's a little bit of a stacking issue there. Yeah, we're going to have that fixed too. Again, sends that feedback, everybody. And you're going to dive into your first pit run. Now, each pit experience it's a randomized layout filled with random monsters. There's no nightmare affixes like what we have or like afflictions like we have in Nightmare Dungeons. Instead, the players really like just pushing themselves up against this timer as fast as they can, trying to complete it. So as you're going through this, you'll see it's very similar to a lot of the things that we did in the Abattoir of Zir. We want to make sure that this is a quick, punchy experience as you're playing and you're killing monsters. You're not going to be getting any loot from the drops. Like that stuff's not here to slow you down. It's just about like pushing as hard as you can. Now, a couple of the major differences between what we've done in the Artificer's Pit relative to what we did in the Abattoir of Zir is first, in the Abattoir of Zir, when a player died while going through the experience, they were immediately ejected from the Abattoir of Zir. Like their run was over in the case of death. Here, we want to allow for a little bit more, a few more problems to occur, a few more errors, from the player as they're kind of going through. So that every time you die, what actually ends up happening is you add 30 seconds to your timer. So you're less and less likely to beat the timer, and that's important. At the end of the timer, you're not ejected from the pit. Like if you don't actually manage to keep time with the timer, you just don't get the mastery objective completion. And the mastery is tied to masterworking materials that you'll be using to go through the masterworking process for your items. In fact, the pit, as Charles referenced earlier,
So you have to go
is
into the
the
pit.
place you need to go in order to obtain the bulk majority of those masterworking materials. So while you can get to the end of the experience and you will get rewards for having defeated the boss by the end of a pit run if you don't manage to finish with the timer in mind, you won't get access to those materials. So why is this? So one of the things we recognize that we think is very unique to Diablo and to SARPGs in general is that a lot of times players are making like efficiency bets about how they choose to engage with content. They're deciding, okay, I can kill monsters of this level fairly easily and without much risk. How much further beyond this level can I push in order to maximize the rewards I'm getting from the runs that I'm doing, and while also like maintaining good cadence and like managing my risk? And that's kind of like that fun sweet spot that we think works really, really well. AOZ was meant to like tap into a little bit of this, but it was also AOZ was designed to be an extraordinarily challenging piece of content from the get-go. Here, the pit starts in a somewhat more reasonable place. I think we understand that tier 45 Nightmare Dungeons are not the most challenging content in the entirety of the game. It goes up much higher than that, and the pit does as well. As the pit can go like well past tier 100, so you can be fighting level 200 monsters, level 250 monsters as you go deeper and deeper into the experience. So, okay, it looks like Ruben's making pretty good time going through this. I think we saw earlier that Ruben actually like jumped into a portal to move to a different area.
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, you can't finish an entire pit run inside like that first area. You kind of are expected to like move on, but you also don't need to kill everything in either of these areas either. There's a good amount of creatures in both spaces. You kind of like make up the time that you need. He's making pretty good time here though. Okay.
So the idea is to try and find that level in the pit where you can go pretty efficiently and quickly, but where you're pushing hard so you can get better rewards, right?
Right. Okay. So Ruben did a great job, Ruben. So you managed to do it. Okay. Let's not get too excited. All right. So now he's gonna go and he's gonna fight the boss in just a moment. Now the second thing that's different about the pit that we you just start to see it a little bit.
Yeah.
There's different from what we've done in AOZ in the past. Is that occasionally during a pit run, you're going to be confronted by another major boss or villain that you've seen. Like you'll see their echo occasionally appear just for a moment to perform a big attack, big sweeping attack, or that you're going to have to like avoid or deal with while you're dealing with the boss you're already fighting. And this is happening throughout the duration of the pit as well. And as you go deeper, you'll see this occasionally a little more frequently at the same time. So these are just another complication, like another thing that you're going to be thinking about while you're playing and trying
So
to. Like,
you need to have a
sorts of
build that
patterns.
can
Eventually
kill
you'll see
bosses.
a couple of these occurring as
Like,
well.
that's the problem with a lot of builds. Like they can do one thing good, but not both. Like
I'll say
clear mobs and
it's kinda
elites
like
and
Elias,
clear
for instance,
bosses.
like a
And
shade of
that's
Elias kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I think that's the
Coming in
core
attack,
issue
just
with
gonna
like
attack in
getting
the
to
middle
A shade of Lilith
the
can appear
top
as
tier
well.
content,
Shade of
right?
Lilith can also appear,
Yeah,
which is
so
pretty cool.
these are definitely tough, tough things as you go deeper and deeper, and eventually you might see a couple of them as well in
Only
combination.
words.
So here Ruben killed the boss, got a number of different drops. There's a bug in this version that we're looking at right now where the items you're
Obdicite.
dropping are not actually ancestral, but that's not the case when players will be playing on the PTR. You all see ancestral items as the rewards for killing the boss here at the end. And then after that, when you open the chest, you're going to see that there's a bunch of obdicite that popped out of it, which is a masterworking material. I think he got 5, from the first run. So as you go deeper in the pit, there's basically 3 tiers of masterworking materials that you're going to be able to earn through. So there's the obdicite, there's the ingolith, and then there is the neath iron. So these are available as you go deeper and deeper into the pit experience. I think obdicite right now is like tiers 1 to 20. You'll be getting amounts of obdicite. As you go from like 21 to 40, you get amounts of ingolith, and as you go to neath iron and beyond, as you go into like 40 and beyond, you start seeing more and more neath iron. And these things can also be like condensed down to lower level materials if you need them for resetting a masterwork item starting at a lower level.
So you don't have to go back to the low level.
No,
you can
no,
stay
no.
at the high end.
You can
and
stay at a higher
just
level.
trim it, yeah.
But to be clear, if you want to get to that rank 12 masterworking, they're really the best possible items, you do need to be pushing deeper levels of the pit. You
Yeah,
can't
for
just continually farm level 1. You want to push to that efficiency bet that you said.
Yeah.
Push yourself to your limit to get the most materials per hour, and just really fight that hard content to get the best items.
That's correct. So yeah, if you want to go through that process and like really get those the best items available for your build, you're going to want to go through the masterworking process, maybe even probably more than once, almost certainly more than once, right? To get the absolute very, very best items. So we think the pit's gonna be it's a really fun experience. It is it's very extendable, so it goes.
Okay, so that's the reason to.
And again, as you're going, you're getting these Stygian stones as you play. Like as you get deeper into the
Get to
experience,
level
you're gonna
100
get those,
faster,
because
then you're gonna spend a lot of time in the pit.
those
Hopefully it's
level
not
200
boring.
tormented versions of these bosses. So like a level 200 tormented version of Barshan, and so on and so forth. All of these bosses
Level
have
200 versions.
a higher chance to drop uber unique item as well. So now there's even more reason to want to go get some of these creatures on farm, and they have better drops. They more prolific in terms of the drops. They drop many more items as you're going through this. So there's these are gonna be huge challenges for players to go and try to chase again just in season 4. So that's like the current look at some of the things we're working on right now.
Yep.
That we're currently very excited about.
Yeah. So
on the content side. Right?
Yeah. We're an hour and a half in of all the content that we just walked through with season 4. And as Adam had mentioned earlier,
That's it then.
We haven't even
20
gone through
minutes
all
of
the class updates. You guys will actually see
question
that.
and
There's
answer.
a lot more. You guys will actually see that next
Do I
week.
care about
Normally,
that?
We do have a blog and patch notes kind of available like a day or two after a campfire chat. I am asking the community if it's okay if we give it to you guys next week, because the only reason why is that they're huge and we actually need to make sure that we get all the information in there. You guys will have it well before the PTR actually
And it's
starts,
proofread,
and we will actually
'cause
have
they're
a
not
blog
usually
kind of going through
proofread.
all the details of
At
this
least not
actual
very
campfire
well.
chat, as well as the
They need to
giant
pay
list of
somebody
patch
more to
notes for the
proofread,
PTR,
'cause
which again will begin
they're not very
on
good.
April 2nd, run for a week. On
Which is
PC
sad
Battle.net,
because
and we'll have instructions of how to actually
Word,
get into the PTR, download the
Pages,
clients and everything from that
Google
as well.
Docs, they all have fucking
I know,
proofreading.
we always end our campfire
It's
chats
automatic.
with a Q&A session.
Yep.
So we do want to make sure that we do a Q&A session right now. So if you guys have questions, please use Twitch
Yeah.
chat.
I can't imagine there's any
specifically.
questions.
No,
so,
we
can't
covered
imagine
everything,
this.
right?
covered it all.
I thought it was a
All
perfect
angles.
explanation.
We did ask earlier this week on the forums if if anyone had any specific questions, and so we can actually
Yeah, but-
tee up a question while people are populating questions in chat. So we'll start off with one
What's
that we have here from the
What's
forums.
the theme?
This is from Iggy. What will happen to current items after this rework? Because obviously we're now changing a lot of things from our past
They're all
items
worthless.
going into season 4.
Yeah, so all of the items that you currently have on your characters or on the Eternal Realm will be flagged as what are called legacy items. And this means that they are not able to interact with the new systems of tempering or masterworking.
So you just trash them all.
They'll continue to function as they are, so that they're not going to break, they're not going to be re-rolled or changed in any way. They're just kind of say, hey, this was an item that you in the old system, but if you want to engage with the new systems and find those greater affixes and temper all the cool new affixes onto it and do masterworking, of course, you're going to need to go out and find new items.
Yeah.
There is a
They're all
question
worthless.
from Toast and Pen, Eternal Realm, what's new? Everything we just talked
Yeah.
about.
Everything.
Everything we just talked
Everything's
about,
Eternal,
Toast and Pen,
so.
is going to be available in the Eternal Realm. So, and this will start with season 4. So, if you are a person that just only plays on Eternal Realm and you have a character already there, of course you can just immediately start.
Why would you
engaging
do
in
that?
everything
Who
we
is
just kinda
that
talked
person?
about right here.
What the fuck is
Jay
going on in
Corsair
your head?
19, does the
Like, why would you
masterworking
not wanna
just
play the new
increase
content?
total range of the roll, or does it get you closer to a max roll?
So it increases the current value. So if you already had a max roll, it keeps on increasing. So as an example, you had an affix that could have rolled between 50 and 100, and you had a value of 90. Every time you increase it, it's going to increase that 90 by, or let's say you had it at 100, just to make the math easier, because quick math. If it was already at 100, the first masterworking upgrade will take it to 105. Even though the base roll range was just up to 100, you can continue progressing past that. If you had it, down at 50, it would go from 50 up to 55, and so on.
Arrow 1357 just asked, like, what about season? Like, is there season stuff as well? We actually aren't talking yet about the season items. So yes, this is all part of the season and part of the Eternal Realm.
Yeah, what's the theme?
But we do have there are some things that we haven't talked about regarding season 4 that we will be talking about here in the future.
The bulk effort for the team has really been spent on trying to ensure that this update is really meaty and all inclusive. Like when I've talked before about, the season 2 updates where we talk about like vulnerability damage and the many changes we had to make to kind of like get that into a better spot for the players overall. You can see like the amount of things that we did are kind of all connected in a lot of ways. And it's important they kind of come out together. It's difficult to do one thing in isolation. So a lot of teams worked together to kind of like bring this update and get over the finish line. So yeah, it's a huge lift. But there's more things to talk about later on, for the season.
Thorag the Warrior says, can multiple affixes increase per masterwork or only one affix per masterwork?
Right, so when you're masterworking, most of the ranks will increase all of the affixes on the gear by a small amount. But when you hit those thresholds, the rank 4, rank 8, and rank 12, a single random affix will get a much larger boost.
Yeah.
And so because that happens 3 times on your journey from rank 1 to 12, in theory, all 3 of those could land on the same affix if you get lucky, and then that one affix just goes through the roof. Or it could be spread out to 3 different affixes, for instance. That's just the nature of masterworking. You're going to get a different result every time you go through that process.
So I've seen a lot of people actually mention this in chat, and Riker also just mentioned this in chat.
Sure.
And they're asking, is it just me, or was the camera more zoomed out in the dev build? Actually,
we didn't even talk about that.
Wow.
Okay. Go ahead.
In season 4, the camera will be more zoomed out, and there will be an option. You can have what we had before, or you can zoom it out a little. So yes.
Yeah, there's a gameplay setting. It starts at the current default,
correct?
Which is what we have in Diablo 4 today. But we've been hearing the feedback. We did make a move. Joe Shelley helped a lot with this actually. Everybody helped a lot with this. We did make a move to like pull the camera out a little bit further. That's part of like a near far sort of like situation. So it's going to be available for you to see in the PTR.
Good eye. Good eye.
Good eye.
Huge update, yes, of course.
Yeah, and we forgot to say that's another really good one to talk about.
Yeah.
Thanks, chat.
There are a lot of questions about loadouts. Did you guys want to provide any context on that?
Yeah, so we've talked about this before. We're very, very excited about bringing in like an armory-like feature to Diablo 4. We've been hearing the feedback since like the gauntlet went up, which we're very excited about, and we see that there's an opportunity.
I mean, that's the perfect
here.
reason
we don't have anything to
for
announce
having
today, but it is a thing the team has talked
having an
about.
armory.
Like the UI team is very excited about. It's a thing we definitely want to move on.
Like you can only do gauntlet with one loadout to be successful in it.
Do you have any intention?
Right? And maybe that's not what you want to play.
Sorry, this is
other
from
than any of the rest of the content.
Or 3II. Do you have any intention of reviewing class optimization? Examples like give more customization points or put Paragon after a higher level than 50?
So there's a number of things that we're talking about for the future.
Why would you do that?
We can't talk about today. But you can imagine that like we're going to be having an expansion soon. We probably want to talk about some of that stuff then. There's things for us to be considering.
A lot of people mentioning a loot filter.
Yeah.
Which I know, like we had mentioned as well, that we wanted to get through the itemization stuff. So
sure, I can talk a little bit about that. I think a lot of the desire for a loot filter in the current version of Diablo 4 stems from the problems that we initially mentioned with we really do just flood you with items, and it's like sifting sand, right? You need to look through all these items, and the one response is, hey, a loot filter could automate all this. We think in this new itemization world where we are simplifying it in a lot of the ways that we already discussed, reduce number of affixes, simpler affixes,
fuck a loot filter.
The item power once
you
you
get
get to the late game always dropping at the max, will help to alleviate a lot of those concerns, and it will make parsing through the items a lot easier in this new system.
Lady Ava 2016 mentioned, or actually brings up something that I think we should talk about, which is, would it be possible to toss a different icon on the map when specific like greater affixes and things like that drop? Are there any plans for that in regards to changing some of that around?
We really want to get feedback from players as you go through the PTR experience. Even the thing that we showed, like the Roman numerals, on the attached to the item names on the ground.
Just
like,
make
even
it
that's going through
glow
bit of
a
revision
different
before
color
it
and have a
actually
different
is released
sound.
as part of the 1.4
Easy.
release.
Done.
moment.
Then
So,
you
like, that's
know,
gonna get a little
hey,
bit
this
better,
has
but,
got
like,
a
I think
greater
that
affix.
It would be good
Fucking
to get
right. Let me go
feedback
look at
to
that
see how
shit.
these things feel.
Just
And,
make
it's
it have a
cool to think
different
about.
glow
We
and a
do
different
want those
fucking
moments
sound.
to be exciting
Yeah.
when they actually occur.
Yeah.
Um,
Just do those two things.
C22, you say higher the rifts, the better the items. Are we talking about the equivalent to primals?
So
And if people don't know, primals being a D3 specific item that was super powerful.
So as you go, we're not changing the rate at which like greater affixes, for example, could appear on like iPower 925 items, and we're not raising the iPower ceiling of items beyond 925 as you're going deeper in the pit. Instead, it's more about like as you go deeper in the pit, you're going to get more legendary drops. So this is going to give you more options, more chances of getting things that have like greater affix potential. So that's really more the way that we're handling that. And then, of course, the masterworking materials that we're using to juice up all of your items.
Drummer Boy had asked specifically, can you do groups with in the pit?
Yes,
Yes,
you
yes,
can
you do
party in
groups.
the pit, yes.
Yes.
Party in the pit,
And
bro.
then let me see. We'll be seeing any like clan updates, social updates. This is another big question that a lot of people are asking about from within chat. Are there any plans on that or any progress regarding that?
So we have been talking a lot internally on the team about social updates and things we want to talk about soon. But we definitely hear the desire from the players that they're looking for more ways to like kind of get into groups and to form pairs with people online as opposed to just like talking in local chat or trade chat or trying to like reach out that way or just going to Discord or just going to external
Who's
sources.
that lonely?
So we do have thoughts on things we want to do to kind of help
that you're
that
looking
process
for
along.
friends
But nothing
in
to
an
announce for
online
season
game
4 at this time.
where most
I know
people
there's
are just
also,
fucking
there's
assholes.
some comments about
Who's
like,
looking for that?
The store, the shop, and things like that related to items. There's actually, I know last time we had a Campfire chat, I had mentioned like, hey, our team that focuses on like the product team has been taking in a lot of feedback.
More
there's actually going to be
transmog colors.
some changes here coming really soon that will be offering up new opportunities for people to use some of the platinum that they may have obtained in the battle pass for some really cool looking sets and stuff or cosmetics for their character. And we're also, I believe, taking and retroactively changing that portal pack.
Yeah.
And I think it was actually locked per class. So if you were like a necromancer, you could
Yeah,
only
you
use
better,
one of the
man.
colors. That is changing
Fucking
here
right.
in the future, where you'll be able to use it. There's no discrimination
you.
amongst portal colors, so
Yep,
yeah,
that's right.
you will be
Thank
able
you.
to choose exactly what you want. And I will say
Thank
there's going to
you.
be some
That
more
was
significant
massively
changes, I know,
disappointing
coming
when I
with the
realized
store
that.
that team has been taking in a lot of feedback. So we'll
Massively
we'll see
disappointing.
more related to that here soon. Let me see if I can get any more questions. Castordiff says any PvP news, balance, new rewards.
Cares
Nothing
about
else on
PvP.
PvP right now. The focus of this update has been predominantly on the core underpinnings of our
Who cares
SRPG
about
experience,
PvP?
Trying to make sure
This
that
is a fucking
there's a really
single-player
exciting
game.
gear chase for players to pursue once they get to a certain level of power.
That you
we have
just
done
want
a
to
lot,
kill
like Charles talked
fucking
about, like, condensing down
monsters.
a lot of our affixes
Like,
to
what?
make items just
Who
feel more
cares about
engaging in
PvP?
general. Going through all of our various classes, trying to open up a lot of new
Go
build
play a different
opportunities.
game. That's
It's
not
kinda
this game.
trying, what
Please,
we're really trying to do here
don't spend
is
too much
respond
time
to
and
a
money
lot
on
of the
PvP.
really
Please,
big
please
major
don't.
feedback we've been hearing, honestly,
Spend
since
it on
launch,
making more
and trying to
cool
like get
content
a good,
for
big, sizable update for
PvE.
players to go and
It's a
engage with there.
PvE
But we didn't
game.
spend time in
That's
features like
its soul.
PvP, and because that would distract us from what we're really trying to focus on at the time instead.
These
But,
things
yeah.
are going to fundamentally change everything, though. Like
That's
PvP
true.
as
It
well.
touches-
Like
it trickles
how
down.
you
Yeah.
make a character, the builds you make, how you do everything fundamentally is going to change from this.
right.
So this was the big thing we're trying to nail, and all of our eyes were focused on that.
That's right.
Dristren asks, I know Uber Uniques cannot be tempered, but can they roll greater affixes and can they be mastercrafted?
Yes, on both accounts.
Yes.
Uniques can roll greater affixes, just the same as ancestral
That's cool.
legendaries. It doesn't need to be ancestral, so it's World Tier 4, same as before. Same concept with Uber Uniques, and even through the Respondent Spark, the crafting system, there is a small chance that when you craft it, it comes with an the Uber Unique comes with a greater affix, even when you craft it, just as if it would drop.
That's correct.
And you can
All right,
masterwork
I'm
them.
gonna do one
Because
last
that's
question.
cool.
This is from
Because then,
GGI
like, you
101.
get an Uber
Will the
Unique to
aspect
drop,
changes
and like you're
also apply
done.
to
No,
alternate
you
characters?
can
Do I need to
improve it
level
and
up
do
my
stuff to it.
aspects
That's
on
cool.
alternate
I like
characters,
that.
For example?
Aspects are partition bound. So which, and what I mean by that is if you're playing a seasonal character and you want to play an alt on on the seasonal realm, like that alt will also benefit from all the unlocks you've got within your Codex of Power.
Good.
I do
for
believe
your first character.
That's
there is
great.
a separation between hardcore and not hardcore
That's
characters
correct.
as
Yes,
well.
that's correct.
Hardcore characters are kind of their own thing, even on the seasonal realm.
Yeah.
Awesome. So a lot of info delivered in this this campfire.
Yeah, I mean,
probably the most
I'm
info
not
we've ever delivered.
not
for
sad.
Any campfire
I'm looking
chat or even
forward to it.
throughout
I'm
the
looking
live stream,
forward
but
to April
it's important
2nd.
stuff because obviously with
That'll be the
season
next
4,
time I play
we have
Diablo.
PTR coming up for those that may have missed
Because
it.
like
It'll
I'm
be
kind of
on
done with
April
season
2nd
3
through
and
April
all of this
9th,
stuff that I have in my
and it'll be on
stash
PC Battle.net only.
that
So
I haven't
players
moved
who,
from
wanna help
season
test
2
things
to
out,
season
provide
into the
feedback,
Eternal.
please
Like
do so.
I
We'll
just
be
fucking
checking
trash it all.
our, our
Who
social
cares about it?
channels,
It's all
Reddit,
worthless
the
anyways.
forums. The forums will actually have a new
Yeah,
separate
I'm never gonna
PTR
play
forum,
on Eternal
available
anyways.
there. This also does mean season 3 is going to be extended because we want to make sure we grab all the feedback from this PTR and all the feedback from the community, and we have enough time to actually implement that for season 4. So season 3 is going to be extended to
That's
May
gonna make it
14th.
potentially buggy
Season
though.
4,
Like
of course,
if there are a
starts
lot of
on May
things
14th
that
as
people
well.
ask to change
we'll
and
be
they
coming
actually
out
do
with
a lot
more
of it,
information on
it's gonna make the
what
season 4
is
launch
specifically,
risky.
and all the details that we actually talked about here today will be in a very
It's another
extensive
2
blog
months
along with
of
all
just
the
like
patch
stagnation.
notes of all the like small things like the class changes that Adam actually wasn't able to
Small,
get
man.
through.
I guess I could
Small.
play
Yeah,
Necromancer in this
small.
season, but do I want to?
Will be in those patch notes as well.
Do we make a druid?
And we still actually do
Do we
have
make a rogue?
another update that will be coming out next week for Diablo 4. And this one has actually been long awaited because this one does include some big quality features on the graphics side for D4. And we will have a blog that will be talking about it. As you guys know, ray tracing is coming to D4, and that'll be hitting next week on March 26th. So people will be able to maybe if you've got a rig for it, you can totally turn up all your graphical settings, get ray tracing with D4, and we'll also be talking about how console players will also be able to take advantage of it in our blog next week. So lots of stuff coming down,
Who cares?
and
cares about ray
lots to talk
tracing?
about. Again, next week we'll have all the information on blog and patch notes. But thanks again. Everyone, thanks again, Joe Shelley. Who's
Yeah,
also still
I'm
in the
looking
room
forward to it.
here.
I'm looking forward to
Thanks,
season
Joe.
4, which is
Thanks,
not with
Joe.
me. It fucking blows, but
And,
whatever.
yeah, huge shout out to the
Give me
community.
time
Thank you guys
to
again
finish
for
the
all the
Spider-Man,
wonderful feedback that you
which
guys
we're
have
gonna
been
play after
providing.
this,
And
and
we're really
it'll give me
excited for you
time
guys
to
jump into
to play
PTR,
Dragon's
jump into
Dogma
all the
for as
season
long as
4
I want.
itemization,
I'm
class
still gonna be
changes,
playing
and of
Overwatch
course our new
anyways, so
endgame, changes as well. So
I mean,
we will catch
season
you
9 of
soon,
Overwatch hasn't been
and,
horrible. It's actually
yeah,
been
next
pretty
week
good.
we'll see
I'm
you
sad
with
that they
the
nerfed
blog and
Mauga
patch notes.
again. I'm happy
Thanks,
that they
guys.
nerfed
Thanks a lot,
Sombra a
everybody.
little bit. But yeah, we will be enjoying more Diablo, just not as rapidly as I would have hoped. But oh well, it is what it is. Thank you guys. I'm looking forward to it. But we are now I'm gonna take a piss, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna continue this web slinging playthrough. So I'll be back in like 5-10 minutes.